Chapter 240. This torture lasted for a full 5 minutes. In the end, Su Ruoqing's internal organs were ruptured and she was bleeding internally. Many of her blood vessels had burst, and her skin was chapped and covered with blood. Her mouth was also bleeding, and her hair was disheveled. She looked like an evil spirit that had crawled out from the depths of hell. Master Kong, Jiang, I'm convinced. Don't torture me anymore. Just kill me. Su Ruoqing couldn't hold on any longer and begged Jiang Tian to end her life so that she could die quickly. However, Jiang Tian made a hand seal to remove the spell and repair her body. In just a breath's time, Su Ruoqing had become an enchanting femme fatale with snow-white skin. However, at this time, there was no arrogance or resistance in her eyes. There was only deep fear, and submission. Now do you know the horror of bursting with joy? Jiang Tian put his hands behind his back and said coldly, "In the future, if you dare to have the slightest disobedience, I'll kill you just like this." "Yes, master." Su Ruoqing shuddered and then lowered her arrogant head. She was as silent as a cicada in winter. She wasn't afraid of death, but she was afraid of dying so miserably. The torture just now was more terrible than the torture in hell. She almost couldn't help but bite her tongue to commit suicide. What shocked her even more was that her flesh had been torn apart by Jiang Tian's spell, but with a wave of Jiang Tian's hand, her broken organs and chapped skin were instantly restored. It could be said that the shock Jiang Tian brought her was simply subversive. His spells and martial arts had reached the point where he could control the life and death of others. He was like a god, completely subduing her and making her unable to raise the slightest resistance. A typhoon suddenly arrived and heavy rain fell from the sky. The people who had been talking in the courtyard of the Banana Club had now come to a tea room. They were burning incense and drinking tea while chatting. Why isn't he back yet? However, Yi Ziwei wasn't in the mood. Instead, she stood anxiously in front of the window. Her beautiful eyes were full of worry and sadness as she stared at the heavy rain pouring down on a fat banana tree in front of the steps. She raised her hand to look at the time on her watch from time to time. Why did Miss Su ask Jiang Tian out? There won't be any disputes, right? Yi Ziwei was anxious, her heart was in a mess, she blamed herself. I should have stopped Xiao Tian. Ziwei, if you agree to marry me now, perhaps I can plead for your brother and ask Miss Su to let him go. Nie Mingyuan suddenly walked over and said softly with a smile. Why does Miss Su want to deal with Jiang Tian? Yi Ziwei asked calmly. A mountain cannot hold two tigers. You can't hide it from me, Jiang Tian is Lingnan's Master Kong. Nie Mingyuan held a fine porcelain teacup from Jingdezhen and slowly tasted the green and clear Mount Lu cloud mist tea. He said with a smile, "Do you think the Su family will allow Jiang Tian to grow up?" When Jiang Tian took down the Fulong mountain, everyone was shocked. Are you trying to drive a wedge between us? Despicable. Yi Ziwei's beautiful eyes suddenly turned cold. She turned around and glared at Nie Mingyuan with hatred. I admit that your brother is very capable, but there's a screw loose in his head. Nie Mingyuan stood there calmly, giving people a sense of elegance and elegance. He snorted disdainfully. The Su family controls many forces in Jinling. If you want people, you have guns, and you have powerful martial artists. Plus, with Su Ruoqing's venomous mind, I'm afraid Jiang Tian is already dead. Seeing Yi Ziwei's expression change drastically and her beautiful eyes about to tear up, Nie Mingyuan felt even more delighted and smug. He calmly sipped his tea and sneered. He dared to kill my brother, fight for the Fulong Mountain, and make an enemy of the Nie family. His time of death has come. Originally, we only wanted to acquire the Medicine King group, but he forced me to kill him. Now, the entire Jiang family will be buried with him. You want to get rid of the Jiang family with just you? Suddenly, a faint voice sounded. Everyone turned around and saw Jiang Tian with Su Ruoqing walking in lazily with his hands behind his back. Su Ruoqing had changed her clothes, but she no longer had the arrogance and strength of the underground queen of Jinling. Instead, she followed Jiang Tian step by step like a maid. Her head was slightly lowered, and her body was slightly bowed. Her eyes were fearful, and she was extremely obedient. Seeing this, Xia Miao, Mu Yunqing, Chu Mingyao, Tang Bao, Lei Gang, and the others were shocked. They couldn't believe it. Nie Mingyuan looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He was dumbfounded and stood there motionless like a clay sculpture. Jiang Tian, are you okay? Yi Ziwei hurriedly walked over and grabbed Jiang Tian's hand, asking anxiously. What can happen? Jiang Tian comforted her by patting the back of her hand. He walked lazily to the sofa and sat down. He crossed his legs and stretched out his hand. Master, please have some tea. Under everyone's incredulous gazes, Su Ruoqing half knelt on the ground and poured tea for Jiang Tian personally. Then she lowered her head and held the cup with both hands, serving it to him softly. Oh my God! Chu Mingyao's heart almost jumped out of her throat. She was dazzled. What's going on? Xia Miao's scalp went numb, and her eyes almost popped out. When did Jiang Tian become so powerful? Su Ruoqing actually called him master and served him tea personally. I didn't hear wrongly, did I? Tang Bao's beautiful eyes were wide open. She covered her mouth with her right hand, trying to suppress the scream that was about to burst out. Her full chest heaved up and down violently, creating dazzling waves. This was the underground queen of Jinling. Even Ye Mingyuan had to treat her with caution and respect. But now, as expected, he's Kong Teichu. I didn't see wrongly that day. He's Kong Teichu, the one who killed Lin Zhenyu. Lei Gang's eyes were filled with wariness. Recalling Jiang Tian's invincible might that caused the water in Poyang Lake to flip upside down, he couldn't help but feel his legs go soft. He screamed in his heart, but he didn't dare to make even the slightest sound. So, I was wrong. I was wrong from the beginning to the end. Mu Yunqing suddenly understood something, and her heart was filled with deep regret. She'd always thought that Jiang Tian was only relying on his family's protection to be able to go against House Nie. Especially after Jiang Tian beat up Nie Feng, she felt that Jiang Tian was too rash and had offended a powerful person. But she'd forgotten one thing. If Jiang Tian was able to scare Yu Chang to the ground, how could it be as simple as relying on House Zhang's protection? If he'd pursued me when I was younger, I would have said yes. If I'd stood by his side when he was messing with Nie Feng, then I wouldn't have ended up like this. She thought of many things in that instant, and her entire body was filled with bitterness and regret. Nie Mingyuan, let me ask you, can you get rid of House Zhang by yourself? Jiang Tian took a sip of tea and slowly pushed the floating tea leaves with the lid of the teacup. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows, and the cold light in his eyes shot to Nie Mingyuan like two cold lightning bolts as he asked in a deep voice. For a moment, Nie Mingyuan felt as if he was being stared at by the god of death, and he shivered subconsciously. Jiang Tian, I was just joking with Ziwei. Nie Mingyuan was indeed Nie Mingyuan. He knew when to yield and when to stand tall. Under Jiang Tian's huge pressure, he could still pile up a gentle smile on his face. He walked slowly to Jiang Tian and said sincerely, "Don't take it to heart. I don't like this joke." Jiang Tian smiled indifferently, and then his eyes suddenly turned cold. He said in a cold voice, "Ruoqing, slap her." "Yes, master." Su Ruoqing didn't hesitate at all. She was like a gust of wind, sweeping out with a faint afterimage. There was a loud and clear sound that shook people's hearts. The crowd didn't even see how Su Ruoqing did it. Nie Mingyuan flew out of the door like a dead dog. Bang! Nie Mingyuan landed in the mud, splashing water everywhere. His face was like peach blossoms, and blood seeped out of the corner of his mouth, mixed with a few broken teeth. He was dizzy and couldn't stop moaning. He couldn't even get up. Su Ruoqing was really angry, and this slap was very heavy. If it wasn't for Nie Mingyuan's incitement, she definitely wouldn't have attacked Jiang Tian. Now, she suffered a great loss, lost her dignity, and became a servant. Of course, it was good to be the servant of a strong person like Jiang Tian, but if she could live peacefully with Jiang Tian and become Jiang Tian's friend or even a woman, wouldn't that be better? SSS-. On the side, Meng Yao, Tang Bao, Lei Gang, Xia Miao, and the others all sucked in a breath of cold air and kept quiet out of fear. They looked at Jiang Tian with more and more fear. It seemed that Su Ruoqing really submitted to Jiang Tian. She was simply following his orders like it was her own arm. Moreover, this was not just a matter of Su Ruoqing surrendering to Jiang Tian alone. Instead, it represented the fact that many of the societies under the Su family had submitted to Jiang Tian. If news of this were to spread out, it would definitely cause a world-shaking earthquake. Master, just say the word and I'll kill him right now. Seeing Nie Mingyuan beaten up so badly, Su Ruoqing felt a perverted pleasure in her heart. Hee, if I wanted to kill him, would I still let him live until now? Jiang Tian sipped his tea leisurely and smiled indifferently. He waved his hand, indicating for Nie Mingyuan to scram. He wanted to use all methods to torture Nie Mingyuan. He wanted him to taste the pain of losing everything like he did in his previous life. No, this wasn't enough. He wanted to return it 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 10,000 times. He wanted to make Nie Mingyuan fall into complete despair. On the side, Su Ruoqing shivered. Her eyes were filled with fear. Who knew what kind of torture Nie Mingyuan would experience in the future? It was too scary. Soon, the gathering at Banana Clubhouse left in a hurry. However, Su Ruoqing also warned everyone not to say a word about what happened tonight. Otherwise, they would suffer from House Su's bloody revenge. Although everyone was puzzled, they were afraid of House Su's power. Who would dare to ask? Yi Ziwei drove Jiang Tian home. Jiang Tian, Nie Mingyuan said that you killed his brother, Nie Feng. Is this true? Yi Ziwei was worried the whole way. She only asked with a frown when they were almost at the villa's entrance. It's true, but you can't blame me for this. Jiang Tian briefly explained what happened that day. Why are you so attentive to Huang Linger? You still have old feelings for her? This won't do. You can't let Qing'er down. Yi Ziwei frowned and exhorted. Chapter 241. I know. Don't worry. I've already taken care of her. Jiang Tian smiled faintly, but there was a hint of bitterness in his eyes. What's going on tonight? Why did Su Ruoqing change her clothes? Did you? Yi Ziwei obviously misunderstood. She couldn't be blamed for this. In his previous life, Jiang Tian was really a playboy, womanizer, and had countless love debts. He wasn't good at other things, but he was good at picking up girls. Jiang Tian must have conquered Su Ruoqing in a short time. That was why Su Ruoqing's attitude changed so drastically. I'm going to faint. What are you thinking about? I conquered her by relying on my own strength. I will never let Qing'er down. Jiang Tian was speechless. The death of Nie Feng and Sun Lingyu didn't cause much of a stir in the upper-class society of Jin City. The Nie family, the Sun family, and the Chen family, who were related to the death of Nie Feng and Sun Lingyu, all kept a tight lid on the news. Su Ruoqing's allegiance to Jiang Tian was only known by a few people in the upper-class society. After being threatened and warned by Su Ruoqing, no one dared to say anything. Therefore, this matter was rarely known. Jiang Tian's life seemed to be peaceful. However, the situation in Jinling had already changed. All kinds of forces gathered in Jinling, ready to strike. I'm afraid the Jiang clan's strength isn't as weak as we thought. Nie Feng actually died at the hands of the Jiang clan's crown prince, Jiang Tian. Young Master Nie, it's not good for you to hide this from me. In a luxurious golf course in the city center of Jinling, a white-haired man waved his club elegantly. To be able to build such a huge golf hotel in the city center where every inch of land was worth an inch of gold, it was enough to show the owner's shocking wealth. However, the upper-class society of Jinling knew that this golf hotel was just one of the many places this man had for leisure and entertainment. Nie Mingyuan and Xia Miao, who could do anything in Jinling, accompanied him on the side. Xia Miao's eyes were filled with reverence, as if she was a fan who had seen her idol. Professor Fong, I didn't mean to hide it from you. I was just worried that it would affect the morale of the people. A trace of astonishment flashed across Nie Mingyuan's face when he heard this, and then he seemed to be a little embarrassed as he said, Only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win 100 battles. I hope that young Master Nie will tell me everything you know and share information with me. Professor Fong paced around the court lazily. He was already in his 50s, but his body was in good shape. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and he didn't have the greasiness of a middle-aged man. He must have been a handsome man when he was young. How much does Professor Fong know about Jiang Tian? Nie Mingyuan handed Professor Fong a bottle of Evian mineral water and asked with a smile. Hong Kong and Guangzhou face each other across the sea. Both sides have a lot of cooperation. I think I know more than you. Professor Fong was wearing a pair of casual pants, a polo shirt, and a baseball cap. He looked like a rich man. He smiled and said, "This man dominated Lingnan and Yangqing City. He's not just a martial arts expert, he's also an expert in sorcery. Hong Kong's feng shui master Su Majai told me that he was the one who killed Wei Shuofeng. That's what we heard as well. He is known as the Master Kong of Jiangbei." Nie Mingyuan nodded and said with interest, "Professor Fong, you're not afraid of the Jiang family and Jiang Tian, are you? Afraid? What's there to be afraid of?" Professor Fong cracked a cold smile and said, "Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. He is an expert in sorcery and martial arts. However, I'm good at business operations and financial transactions. I know that he has a powerful background and is a ruthless and destructive person. However, the capital market was all about transactions, layout, and construction. He might be able to stop the Medicine King Group's share price from plummeting, but he can't stop my team from buying and selling." Nie Mingyuan clapped his hands and smiled. Professor Fong is right. There are rules in business. We are just operating according to the law. No matter how powerful his background is, he can't break the rules and kill people. Otherwise, there will be no place for Jiang Tian in Huaxia. Professor Fong smiled in disdain. Over the past year, under Jiang Qingfeng's leadership, the management strategy of the Medicine King Group has been constantly changing. Their main business has been in a weak state, and now that they're spending money to buy the Fulong Mountain, it's considered leaving their main business and diversifying. No one can save a company like this. That's right. Besides, the old man of the Jiang family is seriously ill. The Medicine King Group has lost its edge. Xia Miao chimed in. With the funding from the three major families of Jin City and my trading team, I can guarantee that the Medicine King Group will change hands within a month. Professor Fong stood on the putting green and looked at the lake in the distance. He sneered and said loudly and clearly, "Professor Fong, it's my honor to be able to fight alongside you." Xia Miao's body trembled when she heard Professor Fong's words. Then, her eyes were filled with admiration. Although Professor Fong seemed to be inconspicuous, he actually had a powerful background. His full name was Fong Zhanhua, and he was a famous prodigy in Hong Kong's stock market. He received a master's degree in finance from the Wharton School when he was 16 and got his doctorate in corporate finance in 1.5 years. His mentor was the Nobel laureate, Oliver Hart. He had taught at many Ivy League business schools in the United States and was a consultant for the World Bank. He returned to Hong Kong in 1996 and became the chief professor of corporate finance at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. During the 1997 Asian financial crisis, Feng Yu set up White Knight Fund and worked with the four consortiums in Hong Kong to support China's central bank. They defeated Soros and Quantum Fund and won the war to protect the Hong Kong Stock Exchange and Forex market. Since then, Feng Yu became famous. After that, the White Knight Fund became famous for shorting listed companies. Their battle results were valiant, and they won every battle. In 2004, they defeated DeLong Group, which had a market value of tens of billions. In 2005, they defeated Colin Electronics. In 2006, they defeated Craftsman Brothers Pictures and Feiyang Heavy Industries. In 2007, they defeated Reno International. It could be said that wherever the White Knight Fund went, mountains and rivers would crumble. Corpses would be strewn everywhere. Many shareholders and managers of listed companies would tremble in fear. The White Knight Fund's method of shorting a listed company was to audit the financial statements and public information of the listed company. If the company was found to be fraudulent or deceptive, they would short the company through securities lending or reverse mergers. Fong Zhanhua could be said to be a powerful figure in the financial industry. He had many allies. He would ask many funds and investors to short the target company and then issue a third-party report. After that, the lawyers would file a class action lawsuit and let the judicial and regulatory agencies make the final decision. This would further destroy the target company's share price. Professor Fong, with you around, I believe that we will definitely win. Nie Mingyuan was excited. Then he snorted and said with disdain, "What bullshit, Jiangbei Master Kong? He will become a pauper in minutes." Professor Fong, many fund companies, private equity funds, investors, media companies, and third-party research institutions are waiting for you in the conference room. Xia Miao looked at the phone and then said to Professor Fong with a face full of joy, "Professor Fong, you are really something. I heard that you are the one behind this. Dozens of investors have come to Jinling City. I estimate that you will raise at least 20 billion yuan this time. Well, let's go." Fang Zhanbo stretched his back and then walked toward the hotel. Jiang Tian, so what if you are good at Dharma spells? This is a financial war. You are just a country bumpkin. You are going to run out of tricks this time. Nie Mingyuan's face was gloomy. His eyes were filled with hatred and his lips curled into a mocking smile. After Jiang Tian's rebirth, he had indeed caused some butterfly effects. For example, the Nie family and the other two major families had brought forward their attack on the Jiang family. For example, the Su family, a martial arts family that had been dormant for many years, was ready to make a move. And the scene in front of him, in his last life, it was Xia Miao's team that defeated the Medicine King Group's hostile takeover. And now, it was Fang Zhanbo, who had experienced the Asian financial crisis and become famous in the Asian financial market. Powerful people were coming, and the city was about to be destroyed. On this day, Jiang Tian had just finished setting up the production line. When he returned to the villa, he ran into Yi Ziwei. He smiled faintly and said, "Sister, the pills I showed you before can be mass-produced." "What? So fast?" Yi Ziwei couldn't believe it. "Well, I will choose a factory. Starting tomorrow, all the production lines will start." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. "Prepare a new product launch and a signing ceremony with the military and the Ministry of Health." With that, Jiang Tian went to the airport again to welcome a financial expert who had just returned from Wall Street, Chen Jinming. Chen Jinming was only 27 or 28 years old. He was tall and handsome. He wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, a white shirt, straight pants, and shiny leather shoes. He looked like a businessman. Behind him was a group of foreigners with blonde hair and blue eyes. Some were pulling suitcases, some were carrying laptops. All of them were smart and capable. They were the trading team of his One Eye Fund. "Jiang Tian, thank you for reminding me. I made $500 million by shorting the U.S. real estate subprime loans." Chen Jinming hugged Jiang Tian warmly, then punched Jiang Tian hard. His face was full of excitement. After Jiang Tian's reminder, he had done research on the subprime loans in the U.S. last year and discovered the repayment crisis. He had used financial derivatives to short the real estate subprime loans and made a lot of money. Now, he was famous on Wall Street. For this, Paramount Pictures even used his team as a prototype to shoot a pseudo-documentary called The Big Short. However, he really couldn't understand. Jiang Tian had always been ignorant and incompetent, and had never come into contact with finance. How could he make such accurate judgments and see through the fog and see through the crisis of the U.S. real estate subprime bonds? You're starting to go solo now, right? Jiang Tian's face was calm, but his eyes flashed with a touch of affection. In his previous life, Chen Jinming, who was also a disciple of Qixia County, had saved the Jiang family with real money. However, because the fundamentals of the Medicine King Group were broken and they didn't have enough funds, the other party's trading team and funds were too strong. Not only did Chen Jinming fail to save the Medicine King Group, but he also lost everything. He was so angry at Xia Miao that he vomited blood and became seriously ill. In this life, Jiang Tian's domineering return could be said to have created an environment that was blessed by the heavens, the earth, and the people. He didn't want Chen Jinming to save the Jiang family. Instead, he wanted him to fight side by side with him to defeat the three big families. At the same time, he made a lot of money. Chapter 242. Yes, that's right. Chen Jinming joked. Why did you call me back this time? You even want me to lead a team. Let me tell you, my team's salary is very high. I heard that there are some problems with Medicine King Group. There are some problems with Medicine King Group before, but there will be a few new products coming out soon. There won't be any problems. Jiang Tian pulled him out of the airport. Yi Ziwei had already sent a few cars to wait for them. Everyone got in one after another. Jiang Tian and Qin Jinming sat in the same car. In the car, Jiang Tian opened a bottle of red wine and said indifferently, "Take a look at Medicine King Group's recent stock chart, as well as the related information of Dynasty Real Estate, 100 Herb Pharmaceuticals, and Shanghai Real Estate. Someone is buying up Medicine King Group's chips at a low price." Chen Jinming quickly scanned and said with a smile, "It should be someone who wants to fight for Medicine King Group's shares, right?" "Yes, that's right." Jiang Tian nodded. Chen Jinming asked, "If you just want to keep Medicine King Group, it's easy. I have enough funds. But since you've given me the information of these 3 listed companies, what are your plans?" "I want to control these 3 listed companies and sweep the Sun, Chen, and Ye families out of the door." Jiang Tian said indifferently. "The market value of these 3 companies is close to 100 billion yuan. My few billion yuan is not enough. Moreover, it's not easy for me to transfer money in a short time. How many bullets have you prepared for me?" Chen Jinming frowned. Jiang Tian held up 5 fingers. 5 billion? Chen Jinming nodded and threw the information aside. He rubbed his chin and said, "It's a little difficult, but give me 3 months, and I should be able to do it." "Not 5 billion. Jiang Tian shook his head and said, "It's 50 billion, fuck." Chen Jinming's hand trembled and the red wine splashed on his crotch. He screamed, "Where did you get so much money? You're too much of a freak. With so many bullets, what are you going to do to the 3 major families?" Jiang Tianyi said with a smile. This time, Jiang Tian had been planning for a long time. He had mobilized all the liquid funds in Lingnan. In fact, Yangcheng Soup, Bai, and Tai, as well as Jiangbei's Yuanhang, Longwei, and other companies could only draw out 10 billion yuan of liquid funds. After all, they were all in the business and most of their assets were fixed assets. However, Jiang Tian asked them to mortgage all of it and borrow money from banks and various financial institutions. In this way, 50 billion yuan was quickly gathered. Speaking of which, with his current cultivation, Jiang Tian could easily annihilate the Nie, Chen, and Sun families of Jinling. However, Jiang Tian had an obsession. He wanted to completely devour these 3 clans, just like how they had defeated the Medicine King Group back then. Smashed, smashed. Beat him until even his own mother can't recognize him. Chen Jinming slapped his thigh, his blood boiling. "This is our battle command," Jiang Tian said with a smile. Jiang Tian bought another villa in the western suburbs of Jinling. It was specially used as the living and working place of the trading team. "Chen Jinming, nice to meet you again." Yi Ziwei and Jiang Lin, 2 stunning beauties, were standing at the door in professional suits, welcoming the arrival of VIPs. Lin, you are so beautiful." Chen Jinming's eyes lit up as he exclaimed in disbelief. He held Jiang Lin's hand tightly and refused to let go. "Ha!" Jiang Tian chuckled as he looked at his cousin's blushing face. He remembered that Chen Jinming liked Jiang Tian a lot when he was a teenager. He would ask Jiang Tian to help him deliver love letters. In his last life, he came back to help the Jiang family. Of course, it was because of him, but also because of Jiang Lin. However, in his last life, they lost the business war. Chen Jinming carried a huge debt and returned to America. How could he fall in love with his cousin? His deep feelings for her must have been hidden deep in his heart. In this life, I hope that all of you will be able to create glory so that you won't let down this life and you can have a good ending. Ha, I was an ugly duckling back then. I'm not as good as someone. Jiang Lin pulled her hand back and said with a smile, "President Chen, you are very successful in America's Wall Street. I've seen the documentary, Too Big to Fail. I heard that people at your level like to sleep with women. I, Chen Jinming, swear that I have never slept with women. Chen Jinming promised nervously. What does that have to do with me? Jiang Lin blushed and glanced at Jiang Tian, who had a faint smile on his face. She lowered her eyes and said, "Let's go to the office." Not bad, Jiang Tian. This place is quite interesting. Chen Jinming walked into the villa and looked around. The living room on the first floor had been turned into a 200 square meters large conference room. Half of it was occupied by a conference table with all kinds of documents piled up on it. In the other half, 20 workstations had been set up. Many LCD screens that could be raised and lowered were arranged in a disorderly manner. In addition, there were hundreds of gigabits of fiber optic connections, projectors, ergonomic swivel chairs, printers, photocopiers, videophones, and other new office facilities. There were more than 10 rooms on the second and third floors. All kinds of living facilities were also the latest. These top financial talents from Wall Street were amazed. In addition, there were a few reliable chefs and servants. They were all agile and didn't need to go out to eat. The meeting started quickly. Chen Jinming said, "Actually, America's financial regulation is very strict. The most serious market manipulation is in the Asian market. I've done a lot of research on these financial manipulations, but after all, it's just theory. I need someone who is familiar with the local financial environment and laws. Our group also has a securities investment department. We can transfer a group of people over." Yi Ziwei said. "No, call Jiang Bangxia over." Jiang Tian waved at Yi Ziwei. Yi Ziwei quickly contacted him. When Jiang Bangxia heard that Jiang Tian was going to launch a financial attack, he was still quite disdainful. Jiang Tian is good at fighting. He can also control red fire, refine pills, and so on. But when it comes to finance, I'm afraid he knows nothing. When she drove over, she was also secretly angry. "Aren't you very active in Lingnan? You have connections with both the black and white. If you want to get rid of the Nye, Sun, and Chen families, you can just go to their door." However, the moment she walked into the office, she was stunned. With a face full of disbelief, she said, Chen Jinming, why are you here?" In her mind, Chen Jinming was a godlike existence. He was one of the few financial talents in Huaxia who had made a name for himself on Wall Street. It could be said that Chen Jinming's operation of shorting subprime loans had made him famous in the international financial market. "Huh? Isn't this Bangxia? She's also a great beauty. Your Jiang family has so many beauties. This trip was not in vain, not in vain." Chen Jinming was analyzing the information of several companies with Jiang Tian. He turned his head and said with a smile. Jiang Bangxia was like a fan who had seen her idol. She stepped forward and bowed repeatedly. With a face full of reverence, she said, "Mr. Chen, your operation last year, shorting subprime loans in the United States, was simply a stroke of genius. I admire you to death. How did you discover their repayment crisis at that time? After all, this is not just a company, but the mortgage of countless families in the United States. The data is so huge that it can't be finished even after a few years." "Ha, I've never told anyone about this, but I can't hide it in front of Jiang Tian." Chen Jinming shook his head helplessly and sighed. "Jiang Tian called me last May to tell me about the problem of subprime loans in the United States. I studied it in depth and then I shorted it." "What? It's Jiang Tian who told you?" Jiang Bangxia felt that her brain was not enough. She looked at Jiang Tian's handsome face in disbelief. Jiang Tian actually knows about finance. And it's the financial market in the United States. He was the one who made Chen Jinming earn hundreds of millions of dollars in real money. This is too incredible. Jiang Bangxia's heart was set off stormy waves. Her eyes were bursting with admiration. She had completely forgotten that a few minutes ago, Jiang Tian was still a useless financial idiot in her mind. "Bangxia, come back. In the future, you will be in charge of the Jiang family's finance. How about it?" Jiang Tian said lightly. Jiang Bangxia's face stiffened. She looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Then, tears seeped out of her eyes little by little. After the old man's birthday banquet, Gu Xiu, who had always thought highly of her, banished her to the cold palace and transferred her directly to the administrative department. She was made a basic clerk, and her job was nothing more than bookbinding and printing. She was unable to display her skills. She knew that this was because of Jiang Tian. It could be said that in the Jiang family, anyone who dared to offend Jiang Tian would become the target of public criticism. In fact, after seeing Jiang Tian's monstrous authority and huge network at the birthday banquet and her failure in the workplace, Jiang Bangxia also wanted to express goodwill to Jiang Tian and return to the Medicine King Group to seek a position. However, her brother, Jiang Tian, was directly sentenced to prison. It was obvious that Jiang Tian was ruthless and ruthless. Jiang Bangxia had repeatedly offended Jiang Tian. She was too ashamed to look for Jiang Tian. She also did not believe that Jiang Tian would put her in an important position. But now, Jiang Tian's magnanimity and generosity made her nose sour. Her eyes were slightly red. She said in a trembling voice, "Jiang Tian, why do you want to put me in an important position? You've never harmed the interests of the Jiang family. You're not a bad person. You still have some ability. Is this enough?" Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Jiang Tian had once killed Hong Tianzhao and Nemo Haoxiong, but he left in a huff. He did not scheme for their worldly assets. Of course, this was also because Jiang Tian did not kill them all. Even if he wanted to scheme for their assets, he still needed to go one step further. Even for the tens of billions of assets of the Wei family in Yangsheng City, Jiang Tian let Hong Yi and the others take charge of distributing them to the major forces. But now that Jiang Tian had returned to the Jiang family, he had no choice but to consider the development of the Jiang family. Since he had to kill along the way, why not add in the plundering? Those ownerless assets would rot there and benefit others if he did not want them. Why not take them into his own pocket? This required a financial genius like Jiang Bangxia to help him launder these assets through legal means. Jiang Tian, no, Patriarch, I will definitely work hard in the future and work my heart out for the Jiang family. Jiang Bangxia's tears rolled down her cheeks as she gave a deep bow and spoke with passion. Chen Jinming smiled at Jiang Tian, then turned his head and asked, "Bangxia, what do you think of the Medicine King Group stock price?" Chapter 243. The stock price of Medicine King Group fell on June 3rd. I searched the news before and after that day and found that in Hong Kong, the media exposed the news that Grandpa was seriously ill and Jiang Qingfeng had intercepted the profits of Xixia Pharmaceutical Company. Jiang Bangxia knew that Chen Jinming wanted to test her, and she was also prepared. She immediately smiled and said, "Because all the patent holders of Medicine King Group are Grandpa, and Grandpa is also the representative of the scientific research strength of Medicine King Group. These two pieces of news should be the direct cause of the fall of Medicine King Group's stock price. Continue, analyze the behind-the-scenes manipulator. Can you figure it out?" Chen Jinming nodded approvingly. In Hong Kong, the media that first published this news is Apple Daily, which belongs to First Media Group. Jiang Bangxia smiled and said, "And in First Media Group, the Shanghai fund under the Nye family owns 15% of the shares. I believe that the Nye family and First Media Group are acting in concert, or even the Nye family is the behind-the-scenes manipulator." Very good. According to the trading volume these days, as well as the outflow and inflow of funds, the operating style, and so on, can you judge the other party's trading team? Chen Jinming asked. I can't tell. Jiang Bangxia was slightly stunned, then shook her head and said, "Well, you can see so much. You're already good. Welcome to join our team and fight side by side." Chen Jinming nodded. Jiang Bangxia suddenly burst into cheers and almost jumped up. How lucky it was to be able to work under Chen Jinming. It could be said that it was the pride of her life. Well, now, let's take a look at the other party's trading style. Chen Jinming said slowly, "Since June 3rd, 3 consecutive guillotines have broken the average of 5 days and 10 days. At the same time, with the unfavorable analysis of financial reports by researchers and negative media news, the net outflow of large companies has exceeded 6% every day. With such a style, who can you think of?" With a hint, We might as well narrow the target to the financial trading team in Hong Kong. David Fong. In the seat, a blonde lady with blue eyes adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses and said calmly, Fong Zhanhua. Hearing this name, Jiang Bengxia was shocked and her pretty face turned as pale as paper. Yes, it's him. Seeing Chen Jinming nod, Jiang Bengxia's delicate body trembled slightly. Her heart was cold, as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. Fong Zhanhua should be cooperating with the Nie family as an independent third party. Chen Jinming said, this person is very conservative, or rather, very cunning. He usually won't use his own company's capital to short the stock. He should only be supporting it as an extraterrestrial brain, using the funds of the three great families of Jinling. Then, according to our calculations, the stocks shorted over the past few days have already exceeded the 8 billion in liquid funds held by the three big families. They should have used their shares as collateral for margin financing. Therefore, our response strategy should be to take advantage of the situation and lure the snake out of its hole. Then we will strike where it hurts the most. At this moment, Chen Jinming suddenly stood up and straightened his body. His eyes glowed brightly like a peerless treasured sword that had just been unsheathed. The first stage is to take advantage of the situation and lure the snake out of its hole. In the process of them suppressing the stock price of Medicine King Group, they can absorb chips at a low price and control more shares. They can even achieve absolute control. Chen Jinming's eyes were filled with murderous intent. It was as if he had turned from a peaceful and lazy young man into a financial giant with great power in his hands. In the second stage, hit the snake's weak spot and kill it in one strike. Release the good news and make the stock price of Medicine King Group rise continuously. In this way, the three big families will not be able to repay their margin financing and securities lending. They are very likely to go bankrupt. Of course, if we have 50 billion in liquid funds now, if we can only do this, it will be too easy for them. We have to go one step further and take drastic measures. Then, in the third stage, we will short and absorb the listed companies controlled by the Nie family and achieve reverse control. We have a lot of funds, which is a natural advantage. We can short and suppress the stock price of the three big families. When their stock price falls, the value of the shares mortgaged to the financial institutions will be lower. Basically, we can guarantee that they will go bankrupt. At this time, we will buy back these shares from the financial institutions and achieve the merger of the three listed companies. Everything will be settled. This operation plan is too domineering. He is indeed a financial tycoon back from Wall Street. Jiang Bengxia's face was full of reverence. Chen Jinming did not only talk about the response strategy, but also accompanied it with detailed actuarial calculations and analysis. It could be said that Fong Zhanhua's trading model was basically transparent to him. But, Jiang Tian, the first step is not a problem. We have money in my team. A trace of worry appeared on Chen Jinming's face at this time. He said lightly, but the second stage, which is the implementation of raising the stock price of Medicine King Group, needs real ability. Of course, we can use funds to forcefully pull it up, but the third stage of suppressing and acquiring the stock price of the three listed companies will be a little difficult. I need good news. And this good news must be realized. The Medicine King Group has to rise at least 5 times in a row. The good news is definitely enough. Jiang Tian said lightly, first of all, the old man's illness has been cured. It's just that I have strictly blocked the news before. He has returned to the Medicine King Group's laboratory to preside over the product development. Is that enough? Chen Jinming was stunned. Then he grinned and pointed at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian, you are so cunning. You have already calculated this day, right? This guy is simply a monster. Seeing Jiang Tian's leisurely smile, Jiang Bengxia understood at this time. It turned out that the news of Grandpa's recovery was strictly guarded by Jiang Tian. He was waiting for it here. Chen Jinming frowned and thought for a moment. If this news is released, the stock price of Medicine King Group can rise to the upper limit. The Zhao Pharmaceutical Company of Linzhou, the patent holder and manufacturer of the muscle tonifying cream, and the Medicine King Group cross-shareholding. Jiang Tian said lightly. It can bring 2 to the upper limit. Chen Zhenming blurted out. The Zhao Pharmaceutical Company's financial report for the first half of this year had achieved a profit of 1 billion. As long as the cross-shareholding plan was fair, it would be a cash cow for the Medicine King Group. It was a huge benefit. The last one, Professor Huang Zhihui, the director of the Fersky Laboratory, has applied for the Nobel Prize and is expected to win. Jiang Tian sipped his tea comfortably and said lightly, in addition, there are the release of 5 new drugs, as well as about 20 billion orders from the Ministry of Health and the military. Damn, that's a killer move. Jiang Tian, with this news, the stock price can rise to the upper limit 10 times. Chen Zhenming hammered Jiang Tian's fist heavily and said excitedly, this time, it's going to be a robbery. The next day, the news that the founder of the Medicine King Group, Jiang Changing, was seriously ill was released in Huaxia's major media. At the same time, White Knight Company published a research report in Hong Kong's Apple Daily, claiming that Jiang Changing's serious illness would further weaken the Medicine King Group's originally weak research and development ability. They also suspected that the management led by Jiang Qingfeng was suspected of falsifying financial records and intercepting profits. Immediately, the capital market was in an uproar, and many financial media eagerly paid attention and reported. You must know that Jiang Changing is the soul of the Medicine King Group and the main pillar of the research department. We can speculate that if Jiang Changing dies of illness, the research department will be even weaker. You must know that the Medicine King Group has not applied for any patents in the past 3 years, and the annual disposable profit of the research expenses is lower than the industry average. Professor Fang Zhanhua, who was famous in Huaxia, commented on the program Finance Talk Every Day on Zhonghai TV station. There were also reporters from Jinling City News, Lang Finance, New Finance, and Fortune magazine. Yes, this is one disaster after another for the Medicine King Group. Moreover, the management of the Medicine King Group has been changing frequently. The sustainability and effectiveness of the company's strategy will be severely tested. As a guest, Xia Miao, who was wearing a handsome suit, spoke with confidence and went straight to the point. Then, Mr. Nya, what do you think of the Medicine King Group's current business strategy? The host asked with a smile. To be honest, I don't understand the strategic intentions of the Medicine King Group now. Xia Miao shrugged and said with a frown, I think the Medicine King Group has set up a real estate company and spent 1 billion to buy the Fulong Mountain land. This is a diversification move that abandons the main business. The failure rate of diversification is very high, and there is almost no precedent of success in the world. I am pessimistic and conservative about the future performance of the Medicine King Group. My view is the same as Mr. Xia's. Fang Zhanhua said with the air of a scholar. I still want to advise the management of the Medicine King Group through the media. They must focus on the main business and not blindly get involved in other fields that they are unfamiliar with. Otherwise, they will be doomed eternally. However, I also know that the real estate industry in Huaxia is very profitable. I am afraid the Medicine King Group will not listen to my advice. After all, I am just a penniless little professor. His humorous words drew a round of applause from the host and the audience. But Ms. Zhang Wanqing seems to be very capable. How could she make such a low-level mistake? The host asked with a smile. The magazine reporter next to him smiled and said, Why is it impossible? She is blinded by greed. It is common for management to abandon the main business for short-term benefits. In fact, since Zhang Wanqing returned to the Medicine King Group, she has been making a lot of bad moves. Do you know that she has a son called Jiang Tian? He is only a third-rate undergraduate, but he is teaching at the Jinling Pharmaceutical University as a visiting professor. Isn't she using the shareholders' money to gild her own son? I heard that he also presided over the preparation of a laboratory. The laboratory cost 100 million yuan. Isn't it a waste to give it to such an ignorant and incompetent person? I heard that this Jiang Tian is extremely ignorant and incompetent, but he is very good at picking up girls. He even had a scandal with the superstar Li Huiyan. He also likes underground car racing and once injured people in a downtown area. The magazine editor followed up with some gossip about Jiang Tian. A group of people laughed and scolded in the program, and the atmosphere of the live broadcast was heated up. Following the broadcast of the program, the stock price of the Medicine King Group plummeted by 8% that afternoon. Fang Zhanbo was famous and authoritative in the financial industry. He was a great contributor to the defeat of Soros and could be said to be one of the most authoritative figures in the financial industry. If he said so, who would not believe him? Chapter 244. Not only was the program broadcast live on TV, but it was also repeated on the internet. By midnight, the number of views had exceeded 4 million. It was the most popular episode of the program. Actually, the most important thing is that Jiang Qingfeng and the original management falsified the financial records and withheld profits. That night, a famous business school professor in the financial world spoke in the media and said righteously, "This is equivalent to stealing money from shareholders. This is no longer a moral issue, but an illegal act of manipulating the market to transfer profits. I call on the regulatory authorities to investigate and punish them as a warning to others." The next day, Chen's Materia Medica Group released a new product and strategy. These products were almost all targeted at Yaowang Group, but the price was only half of Yaowang Group's products. Chen Donglin, the chairman of Materia Medica, announced, "From the moment the product leaves the factory to the pharmacy, it has to go through the price increase of the medicine traders. This time, Materia Medica Group is declaring war on the high price of medicine. We will open a chain of pharmacies and realize the fair price of commonly used medicines." As soon as the news came out, the public was in an uproar. Countless self-media, netizens, and paid posters spoke out on the media. Yaowang Group's products are the same as Materia Medica Group's, but the price is so high. Black-hearted. Yaowang Group is a black-hearted manufacturer that seeks huge profits. Materia Medica Group is the real company with a conscience. This kind of black-hearted company should be eliminated from the market. Don't buy their company. The capital market was even more jittery. Rumors that the Medicine King Group was going to be finished spread like wildfire. No, why is Yaowang Group so black-hearted this time? I'm afraid it will fall again today. Some shareholders were so scared that they broke out in cold sweat. Sell it as soon as the market opens. Damn, I've already lost an apartment. Fang Zhanbo is the controller of White Knight Fund, not an independent scholar. His research report is actually targeted at Yaowang Group. He will definitely short it. Professor Fang has never failed in the capital market. His research report is very authoritative. Yaowang Group is doomed this time. Xia Miao is not a free agent. His private equity fund has many big players. Look at Yaowang Group's stock trend. Large sums of money are pouring in every day. Yaowang Group can't hold on. This is worse than buying PetroChina. They will be stuck for at least 10 years. In an instant, the internet was filled with such voices. Alas, the Medicine King Group has been around for decades. How could it be so miserable? The situation is hopeless. It's obvious that many investors in Hong Kong and Jinling are shorting it. What drove all the shareholders crazy was that when the market opened at 9:30, the Medicine King Group's stock price fell to the limit. After half an hour, the board finally opened. It rose by 2 points, but it only lasted for half an hour before it fell again. The shareholders wanted to cry but had no tears. It was over. They were trapped. They couldn't escape even if they wanted to. This was worse than PetroChina. It's very strange. Why would there be funds being absorbed? Isn't the momentum enough? After the close of the day, in the trading room on the 12th floor of the Golf Hotel, Professor Fang leaned lazily on the leather swivel chair and drank the fragrant Blue Mountain coffee. He stared at the LCD screen and muttered, "It seems that the transaction volume is less than 100 million. It should only be a few large individual investors. Are they stupid? Buying at this time, aren't they courting death?" Xia Miao spoke with disdain. "Tomorrow, we'll continue to smash the board and put in a few more heavy ingredients." Professor Fang rose to his feet and said coldly. The next day, the Tianwei Pharmaceutical Company held a press conference and sent a letter to the Lingnan Medical Products Agency, claiming that Jiang Changing of the Medicine King Corporation was suspected of plagiarizing the patents of the Dangshan Wuji pill and Angong Niuhuang pill. Tianwei Pharmaceutical was one of the top 3 Chinese medicine companies in Huaxia. The Chen family had a long history and its founder was an imperial physician of the Qing dynasty. The current leader of Tianwei Pharmaceutical, Chen Junbin, was already in his 80s. He used to be a member of the Red Wall Imperial Physician Hall and the vice chairman of the Chinese Medicine Association in Huaxia. He was famous in the field of Chinese medicine and was superior to Jiang Changing in terms of seniority and academic status. Jiang Changing used to be my student. 30 years ago, I went to Jinling for training. At that time, Jiang Changing was my teaching assistant. On the TV screen, in the financial program's live broadcast room, Chen Junbin had a head full of white hair and a white beard, looking like an old pedant. He worships me a lot and also likes to discuss medical and pharmaceutical knowledge with me when I'm not teaching. I really like and appreciate this young man who is dedicated to the development of Chinese medicine. Therefore, I told him the 8 prescriptions that I have developed. At that time, everyone's awareness of intellectual property was still weak, so I didn't think too much about it. But who would have thought that Jiang Changing would register the patents of these prescriptions a few years later? That means that Jiang Changing is actually your junior. The host shook his head regretfully and said, if that's the case, then Jiang Changing is plagiarizing your work. What a pity. Actually, Mr. Jiang is quite famous in the academic circle. I didn't expect that he would do such a thing. A guest sneered, what's impossible about that? The Medicine King Group can sell the medicine at such a high price. It can be said that they're insane. If the upper beam isn't straight, the lower beam will be crooked. It can be said that the Medicine King Group is a company without any social ethics. The host smiled and said, Old Chen, many people are calling the hotline at this time to denounce the Medicine King Group's plagiarism. What do you think? I don't know if Changing can watch this program, but I still want to say something to him. Chen Junbin said in a low voice, if everyone only wants to plagiarize and doesn't care about intellectual property rights, then how will we promote Chinese medicine in the future? Who will do research and develop new drugs? I think that Old Chen, you should pursue the legal responsibility of the Medicine King Group. A guest from the legal circle suggested. Chen Junbin smiled and said, he probably didn't think so much at that time. We all want to promote Chinese medicine, but it's difficult to develop new drugs. I can also understand that feeling. But our Tianwei Pharmaceutical Company still has legal means. As long as they stop producing this medicine, I won't pursue the matter. How, Old Chen, you're really magnanimous. Then, Professor Fang, what do you think? The host looked at Fang Zhanbo. Fang Zhanbo frowned and said, I personally hate this kind of thing. It can be said that Huaxia's intellectual property rights protection still has a long way to go. It can't be compared to the United States. But since Old Chen is willing to let them go, then so be it. But if the situation changes and the other party still doesn't stop their plagiarism, then we can only resort to the law. Actually, I have many friends in the legal circle, and I believe that the Medicine King Group won't be able to withstand our legal team. They'll definitely lose this case. But then again, the reason why I invited Old Chen to do this program is because I saw a lot of chaos in the Chinese medicine industry. I personally won't be lenient with such actions that infringe on the legal rights of other companies and the interests of consumers and shareholders. Some media still suspect that Jiang Changing plagiarized. I want to ask, can Jiang Changing's academic standards be compared to Old Chen's? To put it bluntly, he's just Old Chen's disciple. How can Old Chen plagiarize him? He must have plagiarized Old Chen. The Fersky Laboratory is managed by an ignorant and incompetent Jiang Tian and a third-rate scholar Huang Zhihui who hasn't even published a few papers. From this, we can see the research and development capabilities of the Medicine King Group. In the control room, if Yi Ziwei, Jiang Lin, and Jiang Bangxia hadn't heard from Jiang Tian that the other party might use the media to wage a war, they would have been furious. It was obviously Chen Junbin who had stolen the old man's patent, but he still had the attitude of, if you stop production, I'll let you go. It was simply too infuriating. Fang Zhanbu's words were also a threat, and he wanted to use this opportunity to declare that if you don't stop production, the legal team of White Knight will play with you to the end. This was no longer theft, but outright robbery. In the eyes of outsiders, this interview was a fatal blow to the Medicine King Group that was in danger. Not only did it deal a blow to Jiang Changing and the Medicine King Group, but it also further established the image of a generous scholar for Chen Junbin. After the TV broadcast, newspapers and magazines followed. Then a group of financial media people spoke out again, expressing their support for Chen Junbin and the Tianwei Group, and condemning the Medicine King Group and Jiang Changing. Wu Bo, a well-known financial media person and the author of the book, The Big Break, said, "This kind of tolerance and generosity appeared in a Chinese medicine guru, and it is also a reflection of the prosperity of Chinese medicine. I believe that the Chinese medicine industry will definitely create a new glory in such a united and harmonious atmosphere." Lu Zhong, an economics professor from Shuimu University, who had always been known for his poisonous tongue, said, "If tolerance and generosity were used in the protection of intellectual property rights, I'm afraid that those companies dedicated to innovation and research would have been finished long ago. If it's true, then we must strictly investigate. If we don't make the other party pay, how can we make an example of the industry? The Medicine King Group and Jiang Changing are the scum of the industry. Chen Junbin and the Tianwei Group represent the industry? Don't be generous with the generosity of others." Someone also said, "We can't just listen to Chen Junbin's side of the story. We should interview Jiang Changing, right?" But as soon as these words came out, 10,000 feet immediately stomped over, cursing the speaker to the point that he couldn't even raise his head. That's ridiculous. Who is Chen Junbin? He's the Red Wall Imperial Physician and the Vice President of the Chinese Medicine Association. In terms of seniority, Jiang Changing is his student, and he was his teaching assistant in the past. That's right. The Tianwei Group is ranked in the top 3 in the country, and their scientific research is 10,000 times stronger than the Medicine King Group. How can the Tianwei Group plagiarize their work? It's definitely the Medicine King Group. Jiang Changing, that old fart, should die to appease the world. For a time, with the spread of this program, all kinds of discussions were rampant. Everyone agreed that Jiang Changing and the Medicine King Group had plagiarized the patent and were the black sheep of the Chinese medicine industry. That night, in a private clubhouse, Nie Mingyuan held a very secret gathering. The scale of this gathering was no less than the high-level gatherings of the Banana Club. Those present were basically tycoons and young talents with a net worth of hundreds of millions or even billions. Since he had already beheaded Jiang Changing, he might as well spread the news, making the Jiang family even more isolated and helpless. Chapter 245. Congratulations, young Master Nie. This time, the Jiang family and the Medicine King Group have been utterly defeated. Xia Miao stood up and applauded with a smile. It's a stroke of genius. They even invited Fang Zhanbu. How can a country bumpkin like Jiang Tian withstand it? This sniping battle against the Medicine King Group will go down in history. It's a classic case. Everyone stood up and applauded enthusiastically. Flattery flowed like a tide, and the flattery was colorful. I have to admit that Jiang Tian is a talent. Ever since the reform of Jinling, no one has been as open as him. Nie Mingyuan waved his hand and sat down. With a gloomy face, he sneered. Unfortunately, he knows nothing about finance and business. I heard that it's hard for him to fight, right? Aren't you afraid, young Master Nie? Mu Yunqing said with a smile. I'm waiting for him to kill me. Nie Mingyuan was as confident as Mr. Zhuge. He sneered and said, business has its rules. If he fights because of a business dispute, the Jiang family will be doomed eternally. That's banditry. Who dares to cooperate with the Jiang family? Moreover, can the government just sit back and do nothing? Yes, young Master Nie is scheming. He wants you to know that I'm going to kill you, but you can't fight back. Among the seats, a black-bellied middle-aged man made a comment. Nie Mingyuan smiled proudly and glanced at everyone. Everyone, I'm in the open, but you're in the dark. If you follow my Nye family and empty the Jiang family, you'll make money like water. The Jiang family can't do anything to you, he added. The Nye family will take the bullet. Let's make money together. Yes, let's empty the Medicine King group together. We'll make a fortune. Thank you, young Master Nye, for giving us a chance to make a fortune. It's such an obvious opportunity. If we don't seize it, we'll be blind. To young Master Nye, empty the Medicine King group. Many rich young masters raised their glasses and responded together. They were in high spirits and celebrated together. Sister Meng Yao, do you want to empty the Medicine King group together? My company also has a few million in idle funds. Tang Bao couldn't hold back and said excitedly. What did you say? Meng Yao looked at Lin Yi with a confused face, her mind elsewhere. Sister Yao Yao, what are you thinking about? I said that we should follow young Master Nye and short the Medicine King Corporation. Tang Bao said gloomily. I have to think about it. Meng Yao's eyes flashed as she sighed deeply in her heart. Jiang Tian is a genius to be able to suppress Su Ruoqing. But business is business. It's a completely different logic. How can he compare to Nye Mingyuan, who just returned from studying at the Ivy League Business School? Sai, so what if Jiang Tian can fight? Nye Mingyuan is still better. This move is simply. Tang Bao gazed with adoration and fascination at Nye Mingyuan, who was chatting happily with numerous wealthy people, and she was like a fan that had seen her idol. He felt that compared to him, Jiang Tian was like a country bumpkin. From the looks of it, the Jiang clan is really finished this time. Jiang Tian may have some skills, but he doesn't know that showing off his abilities means that the strong are easily defeated. How can he beat Nye Mingyuan in a financial battle? Mu Yunqing lowered her head and sipped her tea, hiding the shock Nye Mingyuan brought to her. She sighed regretfully in her heart. From that day onwards, Zhang Wanqing and Yi Ziwei's phones rang nonstop. Countless people were asking about the situation. Suppliers were asking for the money they owed, pharmacies and medicine trading companies wanted to return their goods, and partners wanted to terminate their partnership. What was even scarier was that the next day after the show, Medicine King Corporation's stock price plummeted again. That day, a shareholder jumped to his death from the roof of a securities company. He had already lost 30%. Because of the leverage trade, his position was breached and he owed the securities company more than $3 million. The capital market was in an uproar after the news broke out. Many people watched as the stock price plummeted, but they couldn't sell it. They were so anxious that they jumped up and down, gritting their teeth. How could I be so blind? I actually bought Medicine King Corporation stock. Damn it. Jiang Changing, give me back my hard-earned money. Countless people beat their chests and stamped their feet. At this time, everyone in the Jiang family was in a state of panic and fear. A dark cloud loomed over them. In order to ensure the perfect implementation of the financial attack, Jiang Tian controlled the insiders to be Yi Ziwei, Jiang Lin, Jiang Bangxia, and the trading team. Even his mother didn't know. It's so annoying. Are these people mad dogs? How could they bite our Medicine King Corporation like this? Jiang Yangming, who saw the show, was so angry that he slammed the table. He only hated that he had resigned and couldn't fight with the other party. Fuck, this old bastard, he's so shameless. That night, Jiang Chao and several companions were drinking in a bar. When they saw the media report, they were so angry that they smashed 3 bottles. Coincidentally, at that time, several people were discussing the dispute between Tianwei Medicine King Corporation and Medicine King Corporation. In their words, they humiliated the Medicine King Corporation. Jiang Chao was angry and fought with the other party. Then a fight broke out, and the police arrested both sides. Zhang Wanqing and Jiang Zhixing were also full of unspeakable grievances and anger at this time. But at the same time, they felt small and insignificant. They were in the Chinese medicine business because of their enthusiasm and naivety. They thought that they could stand aloof from the world and have nothing to fear as long as they ran their businesses well. But at this time, they had encountered a reality that they couldn't resist. Only then did they realize the cruel law of the jungle. We should have persuaded the old man to sue Chen Junbin. We should have made the first move. Now we're in a passive position. Zhang Wanqing sighed. Even if the Medicine King Corporation had the patent, they could denounce it or sue it directly. Coincidentally, Chen Junbin was the old man's tutor when he was in college. Later on, he had a lot of academic contact with the old man. Chen Junbin could have taken out an old manuscript and said that Jiang Changing had gone to register the patent after reading his manuscript. Then, this matter would have been settled. Fang Zhanbua, who was proficient in this field, saw the opportunity to create hype. It could be said that while suppressing the Medicine King Corporation and snatching the shares, it could also build momentum for Tianwei Medicine and the Herbal Group. In the prison, Jiang Qingfeng, whose hair was shaved short, was watching the news on TV. Suddenly he froze. Then his face changed drastically. His hand trembled, and the bread fell into the bowl, splashing juice all over his face. He quickly got up and found an instructor and begged, "Sorry to trouble the government. I want to make a call. I want to see Jiang Tian. Go back. Let me out. I want to see Jiang Tian. Our family business is finished." Jiang Qingfeng cried as he was dragged back by several instructors. 2 days later, the Jiang family couldn't hold back anymore. In the chairman's office of the Medicine King Corporation, Jiang Shoren and his wife, Jiang Yangming and his wife, eldest aunt's family, and youngest aunt's family surrounded Zhang Wanqing. "Where's Jiang Tian?" Jiang Shoren asked nervously. "He went out early in the morning. He's not at home, the company, or the lab," Zhang Wanqing said. "Where did he go? We have to hold a press conference and file a lawsuit. The company's share price has fallen so much that we may lose control of the company." Jiang Shoren looked serious as if he was facing a great enemy. "Yes, those patented formulas are ours. How can we let Chen Junbin talk nonsense?" Zhang Wanqing's aunt looked angry. "Doesn't Jiang Tian know a lot of big shots? Why didn't any of them show up at this time?" Zhang Wanqing said angrily, "Are none of his friends reliable? If this goes on, the Jiang family will be finished." Everyone was talking and making suggestions. It was very noisy. Jiang Weiner pulled Zhang Wanqing's sleeve and cried, "Auntie, is Grandpa a bad guy? Why do my classmates say he's a thief?" It added to the chaos and annoyance. Jiang Tian said not to let us have any response. Zhang Wanqing frowned. "What is he thinking?" Zhang Wanqing's aunt was very anxious. "If he doesn't let us have a response, we can't even find someone to discuss it with." The Jiang family was very anxious. They were worried, angry, and trying to do everything they could to save the Yaowang Group. Perhaps they were more or less selfish, and also had the indifference and vanity of the members of a big family. However, different from his previous life, Jiang Tian's return gave them hope for the rise of the Jiang family. Now, they were united in the general direction of protecting the Yaowang Group. "Let me ask him." Zhang Wanqing couldn't bear it anymore. She called Jiang Tian. "Jiang Tian, you said not to care about the company's share price, not to care about the media's comments, and not to refute the rumors. But now the company's share price has fallen by 40%. It's not a big deal for the paper wealth to shrink, but I'm worried that there are people behind the scenes who are maliciously shorting the company and trying to control the shares of the Yaowang Group. Mom, don't worry. Wait a little longer and we will fight back. All the people behind the scenes will be finished." Jiang Tian's tone was very calm, but a trace of gloominess flashed in his eyes. In his previous life, Chen Junbin had also joined forces with the 3 big families of Jinling to take advantage of the situation. But it was not as vicious, and the attack was not as fierce. But in this life, with the help of Fang Zhanbua, the extraterrestrial brain, they could easily destroy the Medicine King Group, even at the cost of destroying the old master's reputation and personality to achieve their own goals. From this, one could see the viciousness and coldness of his intentions. Jiang Tian was really angry. These people deserve to die. On this day, the share price of the Yaowang Group fell again, and it had fallen by almost 50%. After the market was closed, Jiang Tian called for a meeting with Chen Zhenming, Yi Ziwei, Jiang Lin, and Jiang Bangxia. "I want to know how much bargaining chips we have now?" Jiang Tian asked calmly. We already control 51% of the shares in circulation, and at a super low price. With only 10 billion, we can control the shares with a market value of 20 billion. Thank you to Fang Zhangbua and the others. Chen Jinming twisted his sore neck, took a sip of black coffee, and pursed his lips into a smile. The logistics work in the trading room was very good. This guy's shirt was white and neat, but his eyes were bloodshot, and the corners of his mouth were full of blisters. In the past week, Chen Jinming had barely slept. To not cause the share price to rise and fluctuate, quietly collecting bargaining chips was also a skill. He had at least used a dozen different methods to collect chips. What do you think is the situation of the opponent now? Jiang Tian asked. They have used up all their securities, and they have used up all their bullets. Chen Jinming said calmly, half an hour before the market closed, we put up a 20 million order, which caused the share price to rise by 2 points. It took them half an hour to hit the limit down. They will not hold back. They are very confident that the Yawang Group will not have a chance to make a comeback. If there is no good news, the share price will continue to fall. In the next week, they will finish collecting bargaining chips, take control of the shares, hold a board meeting, and kick the Jiang family out. So, is it time to start the counterattack? Jiang Tian's calm and cold eyes swept across the room as he said coldly. Chapter 246. Let's do it. We can attack them now. Chen Jinming's eyes flashed with murderous intent. He smiled. There are very few shares in the market now, less than 40%. Any good news will bring it to the upper limit. Jiang Tian patted Chen Jinming's shoulder and said calmly, all right, have a good sleep tonight and recharge your energy. Tomorrow, we will begin the counterattack. Out of the trading room, Jiang Tian called Tang Hongte. Mr. Tang, I hope you can attend our new product launch tomorrow. Don't worry, not only will I be there, but a deputy minister will be there as well. Tang Hongte smiled. We've prepared a 10 billion purchase contract. Thank you. Actually, I should be the one thanking you. Tang Hongte smiled. Just the Rising Dragon Meridian Changing Pill will greatly improve a soldier's physique and achieve a significant increase in combat power. It's just that these pills are too expensive and can only be used by the Ace Special Forces. If the price is lower, it'll be even better. However, the healing pills and antidotes can be promoted to the whole army. Master Kong, you've achieved a historical leap in the military's logistics and medical standards. You flatter me. Happy working with you. Jiang Tian smiled lightly and hung up the phone. Then, Jiang Tian called Secretary Yu of the Political and Law Committee. He said lightly, Secretary Yu, it's time to close the net. Yes, Mr. Jiang, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Secretary Yu said excitedly. When Jiang Tian returned to the villa, he heard from his mother that the old man was so angry that his blood pressure was high. However, she was worried that it would affect the overall situation, so she didn't want to tell Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian quickly drove to Jiangzhuang with his parents. Ever since the Spring Festival, the old man had been living in Jiangzhuang, leaving everything to Jiang Tian's family. He didn't care about worldly affairs and enjoyed his old age. Who would have thought that the wind wouldn't stop even if the tree wanted to be quiet? A monstrous wave came crashing down on them. The old man had already fallen asleep. His breathing was heavy, but his brows were tightly knitted. He didn't sleep well. Fortunately, the old man had been taking the 9 Revolutions Great Recovery pill these days. His body was strong and healthy. At present, he was just a little dizzy and was fine. Without waking the old man up, Jiang Tian set up a stretcher beside the old man's feet and rested for the night. The old man was a light sleeper, not to mention that there was a big stone weighing on his heart. At 6 o'clock the next day, the old man woke up at dawn. He stared blankly at the ceiling for 3 minutes before sitting up. Everything that had happened in the past few days was like a nightmare to him. You're back? Seeing that Jiang Tian was reading a book at the side, he held Jiang Tian's hand and sighed. He blamed himself and said, Little Tian, you were right. I'm old and confused. I should have listened to you back then. I really didn't expect Chen Junbin to be so disrespectful. I've harmed the Medicine King Group and dragged everyone down with me. Now, what is done cannot be undone. Grandpa, don't blame yourself. Don't worry, I've already calculated everything. The Medicine King Group will survive. Jiang Tian smiled and said, but, are you willing to attend the Medicine King Group's new product launch tomorrow? What product? Asked the old man. Jiang Tian handed over a stack of documents. There were formulas, patents, clinical trial reports, production licenses, and so on. Prepare the car and send me to Jinling for the launch. After reading the last page, the old man stood up shakily, but his eyes were shining brightly. Zhang Wanqing wanted to help him but was pushed away by him. I'm not old. I can do it. He put on the red tang suit that was hanging at the door and buttoned it up meticulously. He was like an old general who had returned to the field and was ready to go to battle again, with a murderous aura that was ready to cut off all means of retreat. At 9 o'clock that day, Fang Zhanhua, who had eaten a nutritious breakfast, lazily walked into the trading room of the Golf Hotel. Professor Fang, you're amazing. Suddenly, a burst of warm applause sounded. Nie Zhanghai and Ye Mingyuan of the Nie family, Sun Lingyun, the head of the Sun family, Chen Donglin, the CEO of the Baichao Group, Chen Junbin, the founder of Tianwei Pharmaceutical in Yanjing, and many other leaders of private funds, CEOs and directors of large companies all clapped and cheered. Mr. Fang, we've won this battle. It's an easy victory. Thank you, Professor Fang. They only felt that Fang Zhanhua was like a god these days. How the Medicine King Group's stock price went was completely up to him. You're welcome, everyone. Fang Zhanhua gestured for everyone to quiet down and said politely, I can't do without everyone's support and joint efforts. He smirked and contemptuously said, I've also heard of Jiang Tian. He's a strange man. But here, he pointed to his forehead and said, this place doesn't seem to work. Isn't that so? Xia Miao sneered in disdain. Professor Fang, you're killing without shedding a drop of blood. Fang Zhanhua smiled and said, but I still have to congratulate everyone. The Medicine King Group will fall into our pockets in the next 3 days. Everyone can stay and witness this historic moment together. Fang Zhanhua sat down behind the desk, and everyone sat in the rest area. The trading was about to begin. Fang Zhanhua looked at the Medicine King Group's stock price trend in the past few days and sneered, we've been beheaded several times in a row. This trend has scared everyone away. No matter how capable Jiang Tian is, he won't be able to pull it up. Next, it's time for us to casually grab the chips. But right at this moment, a trader whispered, something's not right. Why did the price soar before trading? Another trader directly opened the official website of the Medicine King Group and couldn't help sucking in a breath of cold air. The Medicine King Group has released a good news. The Zhao Pharmaceutical Company in Linzhou City has been acquired. The Zhao Pharmaceutical Company in Linzhou City has made a profit of 1 billion yuan in the first half of the year, which will greatly increase the disposable profits of the Medicine King Group. Furthermore, the acquisition price is only 1 billion yuan. Hiss! After he said this with a solemn face, the whole room was filled with gasps of cold air. The Zhao Pharmaceutical Company could be said to be a dark horse in the Chinese medicine market for more than a year. It had received an order from the Lingnan military region and attracted a lot of attention from the capital. What? They still want to put up a desperate struggle? Xia Miao was shocked and stared at the Medicine King Group's stock price. It's reached the upper limit before trading. It's reached the upper limit before trading. Everyone exclaimed. Now that it had reached the upper limit, it meant that they had no chance to collect chips from the Medicine King Group all day. Fang Zhanhua was also slightly stunned and then said indifferently, the Zhao Pharmaceutical Company and the Jiang family are originally related. What they did is their last struggle. Don't worry. Basically, all the benefits can be redeemed once it reaches the upper limit. They won't be able to afford it tomorrow. Well, Professor Fang is right. At this time, what tricks can the Jiang family play? Nie Zhanghai smiled proudly and calmed down quickly. But more or less, Fang Zhanhua and the 3 major families were still a little worried. They held trading meetings all day to discuss all the possibilities. But now, what they could do was very limited. They had already used up all their chips. They could only pray that the Medicine King Group stock price would not rise tomorrow, or even fall, giving them a chance to collect chips. But who would have thought that the Medicine King Group's acquisition of the Zhao Pharmaceutical Company was just the beginning? Everything that happened next was like a typhoon, destroying them completely. The next day at 8 o'clock, Fang Zhanbo arrived at the trading room early. Chen Junbin, Nie Zhonghai and many other Jinling tycoons also arrived. It was obvious that Nie Zhonghai didn't sleep well last night. The dark circles under his eyes were very deep. Sun Lingyun, on the other hand, was smoking a big cigar with furrowed brows, looking a little anxious. Don't be nervous. I believe that the news of the acquisition of Lin Zhou Pharmaceutical Company has already been digested by the market. Fang Zhanbo sipped the fragrant Blue Mountain coffee as if victory was in his hands. He said lightly, "Also, we have contacted the media yesterday to publish some articles. The stock price of the Medicine King Group should have fallen slightly or even plummeted today. We can start collecting information now. We have read Professor Fang's article. It's very interesting." Xia Miao said with admiration, "It's unrealistic to say that the rapid increase of a company's researchability through acquisition. I believe that the market will also react to it. Hee, it's just a few PhD students that I'm guiding." Fang Zhanbo smiled faintly. "Oh no. The Medicine King Group is holding a press conference with Jiang Changing. It's live streaming." Suddenly, one of the traders cried out in alarm. "What? Which TV station?" Fang Zhanbo was shocked. "The 3 biggest video websites in Huaxia. They are using live streaming." The trader said quickly, "Show me the video." The trader quickly enlarged the video on the big screen. Fang Zhanbo looked up. He saw Jiang Changing in a tang suit, surrounded by Yi Ziwei, Zhang Wanqing and many other senior executives. He walked up to the stage in high spirits. He walked with a majestic gait, his head held high and his chest puffed out. His gaze was cold, and he looked like an old lion patrolling his territory. How is this possible? Fang Zhanbo's hand that was holding the coffee cup trembled. He was shocked. Before the Spring Festival, a picture of Jiang Changing wearing an oxygen mask on his sickbed spread all over Huaxia. He should be dying now. How could he be so healthy? Outside the golf hotel, everyone could see a dark cloud that seemed to be able to press down on the roof. It was closing in from all directions. Farther away, the Medicine King Group's building was brightly lit. It was like a sharp sword that pierced the sky, making people's heart palpitate. In the sound of time, everything that happened in Huaxia and in the pharmaceutical industry was approaching. At this time, not only Fang Zhanbo, but also Lin Zhou and Zhao Xueqing's family gathered in front of the TV to watch the live broadcast. What kind of trick is brother-in-law going to play in this press conference? Zhao Qianru asked with a puzzled face. Believe in Jiang Tian. He will definitely make history. Zhao Huqing and his wife looked determined. Their fingers were interlocked. He can do it. He is the strongest man in the world. He will never let us down. Zhao Xueqing murmured proudly. Jinling First Detention Center. Jiang Qingfeng looked at the TV and murmured, Medicine King Group, you must get through this. Jiang Tian, if you can lead the Medicine King Group through this, I will kowtow to you every time I see you. Jiang Chao, who was grounded by his family because of the fight, looked at the TV with a nervous and expectant face. In the city center of Jinling, more than a dozen large and small screens were bought out by the Medicine King Group. Under the screen, someone looked up and felt the humidity in the air and murmured, "It's going to rain." The weather forecast also indicated that there would be a thunderstorm today. Under the big screen, people opened their umbrellas and looked at the screen. They were surprised and said, "What is the Medicine King Group doing?" Chapter 247. Wow, this stage style is very novel. Cool colors. Someone exclaimed. In fact, it was not only Jinling City. Yanjing, Zhonghai, Yangcheng, all 70 large and medium-sized cities in Huaxia. More than 2,000 large LCD advertising screens were bought by the Medicine King Group. Just this cost alone was almost 100 million. When Fang Zhanbua, who was in the trading room, heard the news, his face turned serious. He knew that this should be the Medicine King Group's last and fiercest counterattack. It had indeed set off a great wave. At this time, suddenly, a tall figure walked in and was stopped by a security guard. "What are you doing here? You can't come in." Jiang Tian said lightly, "My name is Jiang Tian, a member of the Jiang family of Jinling City and the Medicine King Group. I want to talk to Professor Fang." "Why is he here?" Everyone was a bit flustered. They didn't expect that Jiang Tian would come alone at this time. After all, Jiang Tian was also famous in Jinling City. Did he want to kill someone? However, Fang Zhanbua waved his hand calmly and motioned the security guard to make way. Jiang Tian walked in and his eyes fell on Fang Zhanbua, then on Ye Zhanghai and his son. Finally, his eyes fell on Chen Junbin. He asked lightly, "What do you think?" Facing the unmoved Chen Junbin, Jiang Tian said lightly, "Those prescriptions are all my grandpa's. When he asked you, there were witnesses. Why did you plagiarize and slander him? What do you think?" Chen Junbin's face turned pale at first and then a bit ferocious. But in a short time, the corners of his mouth curled up. He sneered and said, "Plagiarizing Jiang Changging's prescriptions? You must be mistaken. Since you are Jiang Changging's grandson, you should know that your grandpa calls me Professor Chen. Don't you know who plagiarized whose prescriptions? Haven't I explained it clearly enough?" Fang Zhanbua, who was next to him, burst into laughter as if he was facing a person with raving disorder. "Do you really think I can't do anything to you?" Jiang Tian smiled lightly. "What can you do? I know you are a martial Dao master from Huaxia and possess extraordinary strength, but this is the capital market. Can you kill me?" Fang Zhanbua was so furious that he sneered, "You've already registered the patent, so we can't do anything to you. However, Old Chen also has a manuscript. We have already hired experts to appraise it. It was 10 years earlier than you registered the patent. What kind of trouble are you trying to stir up now? You plagiarized the patent and still have the guts to ask for an explanation. I advise you not to play any more tricks. Don't hold any new product launches. That will only ruin Jiang Changging and Yaowang Group's reputation." Originally, Jiang Changging had issued an apology and corrected himself. That way, the matter would not have blown up. "We believe that evil will always prevail over good." And now, the reaction of the capital market, with the shareholders voting with their feet, has already explained everything. Chen Junbin glanced at Fang Zhanbua. Both of them knew that what they were saying now was to prevent Jiang Tian from having something like a recorder or a camera. "Very good. I'm very satisfied with your answer." Jiang Tian smiled, but this smile made everyone feel a fierce murderous aura. He said lightly, "As a person, you shouldn't be so ruthless. But this time, I think you are all jackals of the same tribe. You deserve to die. You will regret starting this war for the rest of your life." Then, Jiang Tian turned around and left the trading room. He walked out of the golf hotel and took an umbrella from Jiang Lin. He picked up his phone and said lightly, "The launch can start now." Then, he got in the car and went straight to Yaowang Group. At 8 o'clock sharp, Yaowang Group's big conference room, the venue of the new product launch. The media gathered. "Ms. Zhang Wanqing, Mr. Jiang, what do you have to say in the face of the public's doubts about Mr. Jiang and Yaowang Group? Is there another truth to it?" The host asked with a smile. "As for the truth, let's talk about the new product." Jiang Changging said lightly. All the doubts and clamor dissipated with the old man's words. Jiang Changging's words seemed to be understated, but they were full of strong confidence and power. The older the ginger, the spicier it was. Those reporters who were asked by Fang Zhanbua to look for flaws in Jiang Changging's words felt like they were facing an iron plate. At the same time, they had a bad feeling, just like the dark clouds above the city of Jinling. No one knew what would happen. And what kind of bomb would the Jiang family and Yaowang Group throw out? Yi Ziwei is on the stage. The launch of the new product is about to start. These are the new products made by Master Kong himself. What will they be? Tang Xiaozi, Tai Minghuang, and Bai Qiufei shouted excitedly in the tea room of Six Dynasties residence. Many of Jiang Tian's allies in Yangcheng, Linzhou, and Donghai were watching the live broadcast. At this time, everyone was staring at the big screen. The stage darkened and only a beam of light shone on Yi Ziwei's body. Boss Yi is so beautiful. She's so beautiful. For some reason, everyone was excited. The big screen behind Yi Ziwei lit up and showed the packaging and effects of the new product. In fact, Yi Ziwei was a bit nervous when the lights came on. She even felt a bit dizzy. A live broadcast for a few new products had never been done before in Huaxia. There should be millions of people watching her right now. She saw her father Yi Gufeng smiling at her from the first row. She saw her adoptive mother, Zhang Wanqing, waving her fists. She saw Jiang Zhixing nodding at her. She saw Jiang Tian squinting his eyes and making a victory sign at her. The moment she saw Jiang Tian, she calmed down. She thought to herself, these are all Jiang Tian's hard work. He can invent such a good medicine, so how can I embarrass him? He said that he wants me to be the queen of medicine in Huaxia and the world. The first product is called Detoxification Pill. Under the supervision of Huaxia's Food and Drug Administration and the Ministry of Health, clinical trials have shown that it has a 100% cure rate for all snake venom, drug poisoning, and food poisoning. Strings of data were spat out. Yi Ziwei's face was calm, but her heart was pounding like thunder. When she first saw these statistics, how could she not be shocked to the point of disbelief? Her heart was in turmoil. The price is 1,000 yuan per box. Our company has received a 2 billion yuan order from the military. Also, the medicine has been listed in the Ministry of Health's list of benchmark medicines. The Ministry of Health's order is 5 billion. We will promote it to all major hospitals in the country. Yi Ziwei's voice continued. The big screen showed the video and photos of the contract between the military, the Ministry of Health, and the Medicine King Group. This product was developed by the Fersky laboratories set up by the Medicine King Group and the Jin City Pharmaceutical University. The patent holders are Professor Jiang Changing and Professor Huang Zhihui. After introducing the medicine, Yi Ziwei stretched out her hand. She raised her thumb and curled the rest of her fingers. Her slender index finger pointed below the stage, as if she was going to shoot a gun. She pointed her finger at the camera and then at Fang Zhanbua and the others in front of the big screen in the control room. Zhang Wanqing paused for a moment. At this moment, it was as if the entire world had fallen into a deathly silence. Because of this silence, Fang Zhanbua, Ni Zhanghai, Qin Junbin, and Sun Lingyun suddenly had a bad feeling. It was as if the gate of hell had opened. Qin Junbin, Professor Fang Zhanbua, did we copy this medicine? Yi Ziwei asked coldly. Her voice was as cold as a sword. Now, let's begin the introduction of the second product. Yi Ziwei's introduction was rhythmic but calm. It was like a group of tanks gathering on a boundless field, accumulating momentum that could topple mountains and overturn seas bit by bit. The small recovery pill has a 97% cure rate for early-stage cancer, 75% cure rate for late-stage cancer. That's unbelievable. Also, the price is too cheap. 10,000 yuan for a course of treatment and it's cured? At the same time, all the Huaxia netizens in front of their computer screens and big screens in major cities were exclaiming in disbelief. Now, it's time to talk about the formula. At this time, Yi Ziwei suddenly stopped the introduction. Sai, why did you stop? Continue the introduction. This medicine is amazing. Immediately, in front of the 3,000 big screens in the country, countless people shouted in confusion. The venue of the press conference, as well as the airspace above all the cities, was completely silent. Today, media reporters have arrived at Mr. Qin Junbin's location. Please accept the media interview. Yi Ziwei said coldly with a threatening look in her eyes. In the control room of the golf hotel, Qin Junbin, who was already pale, was startled. He saw a group of reporters swarming in at the door. They all pointed their cameras at him and threw out one heavy question after another. Mr. Qin, what do you think about the new medicine released by the Medicine King Group? Do you still think that the Medicine King Group's research ability is mediocre and that they have no ability to develop new medicines? Do you still think that these new medicines are plagiarized? Qin Junbin's pale and speechless face had already appeared on the big screen. This was a live broadcast. He covered his ashamed face with his hand. Faced with these questions, Qin Junbin was flabbergasted and speechless, unable to answer a single word. Yi Ziwei's voice sounded again. I want to ask him, was this formula also invented by him, Qin Junbin? Yi Ziwei's question was like an invisible spear that led a snowstorm. Everyone looked at Qin Junbin in unison. At this time, everyone was silent. The two new medicines released by the Medicine King Group were enough to prove the formidable research ability of the Medicine King Group. It could even be said that they were epic-making innovations. Before this, the 8 formulas of the Medicine King Group were patented before Tianwei Pharmaceutical. Why did everyone think that Jiang Changing and the Medicine King Group were plagiarized based on Qin Junbin's one-sided statement? Chapter 248. If Jiang Changing had only plagiarized, how could he have invented these epic-making drugs? Friends from the media, please pass the microphones to Mr. Qin Junbin and Mr. Fang Zhanhua. Don't say that Yawang Group didn't give them a chance to speak. Yi Ziwei's voice rang out again. At this time, some media staff had already passed the microphones to Qin Junbin. Seeing this, there were already reporters at the press conference who excitedly said to the camera, "Friends from the audience, the press conference of Yawang Group's new product has undergone an earth-shattering change." Fang Zhanhua was known for his eloquence and sharp words, but at this time, he hesitated and didn't dare to take the microphone. Qin Junbin took the microphone with difficulty. He felt that the microphone was as heavy as a 1,000-pound boulder, and his hand was trembling. Now that the media and the public were paying attention, there would be a public debate. If he didn't take the microphone, it would be obvious that he had a guilty conscience. Seeing that he took the microphone, Yi Ziwei quickly asked, "Is this formula yours, Qin Junbin? If so, please tell us the formula." In front of the computer screens and in front of the LCD screens in the city, everyone was in an uproar. This question is simply too tricky and fierce. In the past, when they watched a press conference of a new product, it was always calm and uneventful. It was never as exciting as this. In an instant, it seemed that the atmosphere of the audience was ignited. On the internet, the number of people who watched the video soared rapidly. 1 million, 3 million, 5 million, 10 million. In front of countless LCD screens, more and more people gathered, causing traffic jams. Yi Ziwei's words were like a death knell. I'll give you 10 seconds to think. Starting now, 10, 9, 8. Following Yi Ziwei's countdown, people in front of the LCD screens and in front of the computer screens shouted together with their phones, 10, 9, 8. When Yi Ziwei counted to 6, countless people on the street and in front of the LCD screens shouted, 6, 5, 4. In an instant, it seemed that the whole of Huaxia was in an uproar. Tens of millions of people in the subway, in the neighborhood, in the park paths, in the supermarket, and in the living room at home shouted together. Their voices sounded like the Milky Way descending from the 9 heavens. They were uniform and carried a carnival atmosphere as they shattered the heavens. Near the Golf Hotel, there were 2 LCD billboards reserved by the Medicine King Group. At this time, thousands of people had gathered and were shouting in unison. What was the feeling of thousands of people shouting in unison when the rain was falling? Even the drizzling raindrops were shattered and scattered, and even the cool breeze that blew past became hoarse and powerless. Even the entire Golf Hotel was shaken to the point that it floated weakly in the air, as if it was about to collapse. Many years later, some people would recall this new product launch, and some would slap the table in praise. That Chairman Yi of the Medicine King Group is really too ruthless. At this moment, Qin Junbin seemed to have a premonition of his fate. Holding the microphone, he was on the verge of collapse. Fang Zhanhua only moved his but a little, but he couldn't say a word. At this time, through the big screen, they saw the scene of hundreds of thousands of people shouting in unison under the LCD screens on the streets of 70 major cities across the country. They felt as if they had fallen into a nightmare, as if the gates of hell had been opened. The director of this live broadcast was also hired with a lot of money. He had once directed the Olympic Games. At this moment, he spliced more than 3,000 shots onto the big screen. So, everywhere Fang Zhanhua and Qin Junbin looked, there was a crowd. They were all coldly watching their performance. The people who were counting down together were all crazy shouts in their ears. From their throats, only the sound of swallowing came out, but they couldn't make a meaningful sound. They had once wantonly controlled the media and the public, but only now did they know how terrible the violence of the public could be. This was a force that could destroy everything. 3, 2. Yi Ziwei was still counting down. 3, 2. Countless people counted down with Yi Ziwei. 1. Hua. This was the roar of hundreds of thousands of people under 3,000 screens in 70 large and medium-sized cities across the country. If the netizens who didn't know the ins and outs of the situation had turned on the live broadcast at this moment, they would have been so shocked by this roar that they would have fallen to the ground. Yi Ziwei did not count down the last one. Countless netizens and the public across the country counted for her. Then, Yi Ziwei waved her hand and the formula of the small recovery pill appeared on the screen. As if nothing had happened, she talked tirelessly and calmly about the difficult process of developing this new drug. At the live press conference, everyone in the media's observation seats was moved. Their breathing became rapid. On the stage, Yi Ziwei was enveloped by a layer of light. She was so beautiful that time and space stopped. Her slender and tall body faced the light from the sky. Her eyes were full of compassion, as if she was a god or a fairy. Then Yi Ziwei began to introduce the next product. Detailed clinical trial data, amazing results, and huge orders. In the end, when the prescription was announced, she stopped again. She looked at Jiang Tian, then looked at the camera. Her eyes seemed to penetrate the screen and land on Qin Junbin and Fang Zhanhua. The press conference site was silent. The entire Jinling city waited quietly. At this time, in the trading room of the Golf Hotel, Qin Junbin had a bad feeling. Fang Zhanhua was sitting on pins and needles. He looked at the media and reporters vigilantly, trembling. Here it comes again. The camera was pointed at them again. Sure enough, Yi Ziwei shouted again. Qin Junbin, is this formula yours? Say it and we'll count down together. 10. Haha, this is so fun. This is the first time I've seen such an interesting product launch. Countless people laughed maniacally and echoed his words. This is a relentless attack, a slap in the face. In the camera, Fang Zhanhua and Qin Junbin's faces had turned green and white as they covered their faces. After another round of wild countdown, Yi Ziwei continued with the release of the next product. The next one is the Rising Dragon Yijing pill, which is custom-made by the military and not for sale to the public. Qin Junbin, did you invent it? One after another, amazing products were launched like rockets, one after another, shocking the world. The Medicine King Group's press conference was also halfway through. All the media and the public were alarmed and paying close attention. The total number of views and online viewers of the online video kept climbing. 40 million, 45 million, 60 million, 70 million. Many scholars, financial media commentators, and observers of the Chinese medicine industry were stunned. It can be said that any of these products released by the Medicine King Group can sweep the world. Someone said with deep emotion, a desperate counterattack. This is not only the Medicine King Group's desperate counterattack, but also the Chinese medicine industry in Huaxia. It will completely change the global medicine landscape. Some practitioners said. The last new product, the Black Jade Intermittent Ointment, which specializes in treating external injuries, Yi Ziwei threw out another bomb. Is it yours? Is it Qin Junbin's? Tell us the formula. In the face of Yi Ziwei's repeated questions, Fang Zhanhua and Qin Junbin held the microphone but didn't say a word. Silence. There was a deathly silence. Such frightening effects, such frightening orders, and such a variety of products were all produced by the Medicine King Group alone. Such shocking products were like nuclear bombs, wantonly bombarding the Chinese medicine market in Huaxia, bombarding the excited hearts of the people, and making the land tremble. It also bombarded the most fragile nerves of Fang Zhanhua and Qin Junbin, making them break out in a cold sweat and pale as paper. Why would such a talented and resourceful medicine king group plagiarize Chen Junbin's prescription? If Chen Junbin had the ability to come up with a patent or product that could compete with the other party, he would be able to get 1 billion yuan. Let alone 1 billion yuan, even 100 million yuan order would be impressive. Not to mention such an intensive product launch and such a huge number of orders falling like snowflakes. Even if all the Chinese medicine companies in Huaxia were combined, they would still be no match for the Medicine King Group. Everyone looked at Fang Zhanbua and Chen Junbin's pale faces and shivering bodies through the screen. They felt that even their bones were about to turn cold. Now, I'll announce another piece of good news from Sweden. Yi Ziwei's eyes were cold, and she finally pressed the button to explode the nuclear weapon. Huang Zhihui, director of the Fersky Laboratory under the Medicine King Group, won this year's Nobel Prize in Medicine. It was like a peerless swordsman wielding a sword to the throat. The audience was dead silent when the news was announced. It also announced the end of the Medicine King Group's new product launch. Some things had come to an end, but some things had just risen. Moreover, it would sweep through the universe with an unstoppable momentum. At this time, it was already 9:30. The market was open. The stock price of the Medicine King Group had reached the upper limit. In White Knight's trading room, the reporters looked at the people in the room sympathetically as if they were looking at a group of dead people. Then they left. It's over. We lost. Nie Zhanghai's head was dizzy, and he couldn't even stand still. How did this kid build the Medicine King Group to such a powerful company? Nie Mingyuan's face was pale as if he had been struck by lightning. He stood there motionless. Who is our opponent? The stock price has reached the upper limit for 2 consecutive days. Xia Miao's face was pale as he murmured to himself, "No, I'm afraid the stock price will reach the upper limit in the next 10 days. This is godlike operation." In 3 days, their securities would be due and they would have to repay many financial institutions and securities companies. But obviously, the stock price of the Medicine King Group would continue to soar, far exceeding the cost of their securities. After a rough calculation, they would lose as much as 10 billion just by controlling the Medicine King Group. The key was that the Medicine King Group was always closed. They couldn't collect the chips to repay the securities at all, and faced the danger of being forced to liquidate. The deposits and pledged shares would be taken back by the financial institutions at a discount. What was worse was that the shares they pledged, including the 3 shares of Shanghai Real Estate, had been shorted crazily since yesterday, and the stock price kept plummeting. They were out of stock. Even if they lost all the shares of the 3 listed companies, it wouldn't be enough to cover the cost of the securities. This also meant that from a legal point of view, not only did the 3 families not have a single cent, but they also had to bear a huge debt. A debt that they couldn't repay in their lifetime. Chapter 249. Moreover, there were at least 20 bosses who followed the trend and made the Medicine King Group bankrupt. Many people stood there dumbfounded. They were angry, helpless, and desperate. They couldn't accept it at all. The small Jiang family. They were like ants in their eyes. They could kill them with a slap. But now, they were actually fighting back. With a single press conference, they had turned the tables and brazenly showed their swords. The 3 major families of Jinling, the Chen family of Beijing, and the White Knight Fund of Hong Kong were all flustered and unable to resist at all. In the end, they suffered a crushing defeat. In their eyes, the Jiang family was no longer a weak family that could be bullied. Instead, it was a prehistoric beast that could devour the heavens and the earth, and they were little white rabbits trembling at the feet of the Medicine King Group. And all this was because of Jiang Tian. It was Jiang Tian's return that changed everything. However, even at this moment, they still couldn't believe it. Jiang Tian was not only an expert in martial arts and surgery, but also a business genius who was proficient in business. He had won a financial war and a public opinion war. Now that they thought about it, Jiang Tian's every move was silent, but his plan was far-reaching. In the end, it was like a sudden clap of thunder, brazenly exploding, blasting them to the point where not even their bones remained. What a loss! What a loss! I've lost all my money. There were also many bosses who wept bitterly and wailed. Men don't cry easily, but they couldn't accept such a huge loss. It could be said that half of their life's hard work was destroyed in a day. For them, it was tantamount to falling from heaven to hell. Professor Fong, Boss Nya, what's going on? Don't you know the inside story of the Medicine King Group? Some bosses even pointed at Fong Zhanbua and shouted angrily. They couldn't wait to eat Fong Zhanbua alive. Fong Zhanbua stood there in a daze, as if he had lost his soul. He did not move at all, as if he did not hear these voices. He was very conservative. He invested very little money and earned money from commission, so the loss was not serious. However, he understood that after this defeat his reputation would be destroyed, and his future career could be said to be over. This time, he had lost so badly that he had lost tens of billions of yuan. Who would dare to look for him? I'll send you 1,000 miles away. At this moment, Fong Zhanbua's mobile phone suddenly rang, causing him to shiver all over. He picked up the phone and answered it. After only 3 sentences, his face turned pale again. Our opponent is a one-eyed fund from Wall Street. The manipulator is Chen Jinming. Fong Zhanbua's hand trembled violently, and the phone slipped to the ground. Then, he said those words in a daze. It's him. Xia Miao had a horrified expression as if he was grieving his parents, and he said helplessly with monstrous hatred, "No wonder we lost." The press conference of the Medicine King Group lasted from 8:30 to 9:30 and ended in just an hour. However, a storm that would engulf Jinling had just begun to brew. That morning, earth-shattering news came out one after another. At 10 o'clock in the morning, Qin Shuwen, the deputy director of the Qin family in Jinling, was investigated by the Provincial Commission for Discipline Inspection for corruption and bribery. At 11 o'clock in the morning, the Nye family's Shanghai real estate was investigated by the Jinling Economic Investigation Bureau for tax evasion and illegal competition. At 11 o'clock, the head of the Sun family, Sun Lingyun, was placed under house surveillance by the City Bureau for organizing illegal activities. The Xia family's Golden Rock Securities was permanently banned from the market for insider trading. The Provincial Commission for Discipline Inspection was also investigated. Unsheathing their swords, they slaughtered their way through. Many officials who had a close relationship with the 3 families were investigated and even arrested by the Public Security Bureau. This business war had a wide range of effects. This could be said to be the biggest and most shocking shock to the Jinling business circle after the reform. It was like an earthquake, shaking everyone's mind. For 3 days in a row, the stock prices of the Herbal Group, Shanghai Real Estate, Dynasty Real Estate, Tianwei Pharmaceuticals, Golden Rock Securities, and many other companies plummeted. 3 days later, at the Nye family's mansion. In the study room, Nye Zhanghai, Nye Mingyuan, Sun Lingyun, and Chen Donglin were discussing countermeasures. After the Medicine King Corporation's press conference, Fong Zhanbua felt helpless. He was also afraid of being controlled by the Huaxia Securities Regulatory Bureau, so he had already fled to the United States. On the other hand, the Tianwei Group in Yanjin was also maliciously shorted, causing the stock price to plummet. Chen Junbin's heart attack acted up and he was sent to the first hospital in Yanjin. He was admitted to the intensive care unit and was in critical condition. Right now, the 3 great clans of Jinling could be said to be like monkeys scattering when the tree falls. The curtains in the room were tightly closed, the lights were dim, and the ashtray was filled with cigarette butts. The smell of smoke was pungent. Nye Zhanghai put down the antique phone and shook his head. I've already contacted my friends in Yanjin. No one there is willing to help. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They couldn't believe it. Nye Mingyuan frowned and asked, "Father, why is that? Jiang Tian is powerful, but his influence has only reached Lingnan. Why are the forces in Yanjin afraid of him?" "Mingyuan, you are mistaken." "We are all mistaken." Nye Zhanghai shook his head and sighed. Jiang Tian is not only the Master Kong of Jiangbei, but also the Master Kong of Lingnan. He is Kong Taichu, the man who killed Lin Zhenyu of the Great Circle at the Martial Arts Alliance Conference last year. Kong Taichu, he has another identity? Chen Donglin asked. He is known as the most powerful grandmaster under the immortal state in Huaxia. Nie Zhanghai said. The martial arts in Huaxia are divided into 4 stages: iron body, internal force, transcendent state, and immortal state. The immortal realm was illusory and only existed in legends. Below that is the transcendent state, which is known as the grandmaster in the martial arts world. He heaved a sigh and said, transcendent grandmasters are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. There are only a handful of them in a province. Take Su Jinlei of Jin City as an example. He is just an ordinary transcendent grandmaster, yet the government is wary of him. Jiang Tian is the most powerful grandmaster in Huaxia. He is as powerful as Yi Zhantian, who has been in the long term. What? He is as powerful as Yi Zhantian? As soon as the words came out, the crowd gasped in shock. Everyone's eyes widened and their jaws dropped. I didn't know that we had such a powerful enemy. Chen Donglin mumbled to himself as his scalp went numb. Jiang Tian, Kong Teichu. He is a godlike figure, Sun Lingyun said as her legs gave out from under her. How is that possible? Nie Mingyuan waved his arms around and shouted like a madman. I have done a thorough investigation on Jiang Tian. He is extremely mediocre and useless. I believe that he had a fortuitous encounter and has some martial arts cultivation, but how can he be the #1 grandmaster under the god state? Nie Mingyuan couldn't accept it. It was as if he had been struck by a bolt of lightning. Suddenly, an executive of Shanghai Real Estate walked into the room and said anxiously, Boss Nie, everyone, we have bad news. The financial institution that lent us the loan has closed its position. The value of the shares that we have pledged is not enough to cover our losses. We have to take on a huge debt. How much is the Chen family's debt? Chen Donglin asked in a trembling voice. 3 billion Huaxia dollars. The executive heaved a sigh. So much? Chen Donglin clutched his chest in agony. His heart was throbbing with pain and he almost fell to the ground. Not only was his wealth gone, but he also had to take on a huge debt that he would never be able to pay back in his lifetime. What about the Nie family? Nie Zhanghai asked. 3 billion Huaxia dollars. The executive said with difficulty. Decades of hard work is gone in my hands. I'd rather die. Nie Zhanghai lamented. His head was dizzy. He hugged his head as tears streamed down his face. Dad, don't be sad. Where there's life, there's hope. Nie Mingyuan exclaimed and quickly fed him medicine for high blood pressure. What about the Sun family? Sun Lingyun asked anxiously. 2 billion Huaxia dollars. The executive couldn't bear it. Sun Lingyun was furious. He rushed out of the door and shouted, This is all thanks to Jiang Tian. I'll tear him to pieces today. His son Sun Hao and brother Sun Lingyu died in the hands of Jiang Tian. Now, the Sun family was beaten to a pulp by Jiang Tian. He couldn't take it lying down. Stop right there. Nie Zhanghai shouted. Brother Zhanghai, if we don't get rid of him, the 3 major families of Jinling will be destroyed. Sun Lingyun gritted his teeth. You're no match for him. It's useless even if hundreds of Qingyun society members attack him together. Nie Zhanghai shook his head and sighed. He's the strongest grandmaster. Then what should we do? Sun Lingyun was unwilling. At this time, we should hide our strength and endure the humiliation. Nie Zhanghai took a deep breath and his thoughts gradually became clear. Tomorrow, I'll go to him and ask him to let us go. Will it work? He wants to kill us. This is tantamount to asking a tiger for its skin. Nie Mingyuan said. We're just stalling for time. Your aunt ended her seclusion and will return to Jinling in 3 days. Nie Zhanghai said, when the time comes, we'll use the power of Wudong sect to destroy the Jiang family. Who will dare to stop us? Shuiman is finally coming back. When everyone heard this, their hearts and minds calmed down. It was as if they had obtained great support, and their spirits were roused. Nie Zhanghai sipped his tea and nodded. Then, a cold light flashed in his eyes and he said, when the time comes, we'll take over the Jiang family and Medicine King group. The government won't dare to provoke Wudong sect behind my sister. The next day, Jiang Tian was meditating in his villa. Suddenly, Yiziwei walked in and said softly, "Jiang Tian, Nie Zhanghai is here to visit. Let him in." Jiang Tian opened his eyes and a cold light flashed in them. The corner of his mouth curved into a mocking smile. "Master Kong." Nie Zhanghai walked in and sat down in front of Jiang Tian. He put on the posture of a powerful grandmaster and said, "I know you're the strongest grandmaster under the immortal state and the ruler of Lingnan. This time, you've joined forces with Wall Street to defeat the Nie family and the other two families. This old man accepts his defeat wholeheartedly." Jiang Tian sat cross-legged. His peaceful face shone brightly. His white robe was spotless and he looked like an immortal. You didn't come to me just to talk nonsense, did you?" Jiang Tian suddenly said with a mocking face. Chapter 250. Master Kong, please stop. Nie Changhai said in a deep voice, "Our three families have been utterly defeated by you. Please leave us some assets and bloodline. As for Master Kong killing my son, Nie Feng, and Sun Lingyu, our three families will let bygones be bygones. I guarantee that we will not take revenge." "You seem to be mistaken." Jiang Tian calmly took a sip of tea and said indifferently, "I killed them because they asked for it. They deserve to die. What reason do you have to take revenge on me? Besides, even if you want to take revenge on me, you're already penniless and carrying a huge debt. You're even worse than a beggar. What do you have to take revenge on me?" Nie Changhai almost vomited blood from Jiang Tian's words, but he was speechless. "Don't have any delusions," Jiang Tian said coldly. "I will exterminate your three families. Go back and wash your necks and wait for me to chop them off." He was domineering and unforgiving. No one from the three families could escape. All life and death were under Jiang Tian's control. Nie Changhai was so angry that he almost exploded on the spot. He roared in a deep voice, "What benefits do you get from exterminating our three families? What benefits do you get from exterminating my Jiang family?" Jiang Tian asked with a faint smile. His smile was full of disdain and coldness. Those who killed would be killed by others. It was a principle that had never changed since ancient times. If you wanted to kill someone, you had to be prepared to be killed. Nie Changhai sighed and said bitterly, "If I told you that I didn't want to exterminate your Jiang family, would you believe me? Tell me." Jiang Tian's eyes lit up. The real culprit seemed to be about to be revealed. Nie Changhai pondered for a long time before shaking his head and sighing, "I can't say." "Since you won't say it, then go back and wait for your death." Jiang Tian's eyes suddenly turned cold. "You?" Nie Changhai was furious. He stood up and said in a deep voice, "My Nie family has Wudong as its backing. I want to see how you're going to destroy my Nie family." In the next 2 days, the Nie, Chen, and Sun families could be described as being tossed about by a storm. The shares pledged by the three listed companies were forced to liquidate and then acquired by the Medicine King Group and the Lingnan forces in the form of a large transaction. Jiang Tian's camp immediately called for a board meeting. Nie Zhanghai, Chen Donglin, and Sun Lingyun were kicked out of the board. At this point, the Medicine King Group and the Lingnan faction completely controlled the three listed companies, Shanghai Real Estate, Benchao Group, and Dynasty Real Estate. The dust settled. This could be called a classic financial sniping battle. Like a major earthquake, it shocked countless financial observers and triggered many comments. The Medicine King Group's counterattack has been successful. Its market value has exceeded 100 billion yuan, and it has become the #1 pharmaceutical giant in Huaxia and the #1 business circle in Jinling. A big entrepreneur sighed. Unbelievable. Previously, the three major families had joined forces with Hong Kong's capital to attack the Medicine King Corporation. But who would have thought that the Medicine King Corporation would have so many tricks up their sleeves? They only used a new product launch to announce their powerful R&D capabilities and 20 billion yuan worth of orders. Their stock price had doubled in a short time and they had turned the tables on the three major families. Many people felt as if they were in a dream. Everything felt like a dream. House Jiang actually won. In a coffee shop, Meng Yao sat by the window and watched the news in disbelief. It felt like a dream. Man, I followed Nie Mingyuan and sold out the Medicine King Group. We lost millions. I didn't think that Jiang Tian would win. This Nie Mingyuan really screwed me over. Useless trash. Tang Bao's face was gloomy. Her cheeks were puffed up with tears. She was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. Yi Ziwei's performance at the product launch was amazing. Mu Yunqing watched the replay of the Medicine King Group's product launch tirelessly, envious. She felt that she was getting further and further away from Yi Ziwei. There was a sense of unfamiliarity. Who would have thought that Medicine King Group's product launch would be so powerful? That's right. Why is the laboratory that Jiang Tian established so powerful? That Huang Zhihui even won the Nobel Prize. It's amazing. Many of the rich girls in Jinling were stunned. They looked at Jiang Tian in a new light. Some of the people who followed the trend and shorted the Medicine King Group were even more disappointed. They vomited 3 liters of blood and cried. Are there any other moves from House Jiang? If they make a move against us, we're all done for. Many rich and powerful people who were on good terms with the 3 great clans were trembling and scared out of their wits by the Jiang family's combination punch. I'm afraid that from now on, there will be no more 3 noble houses in Jinling. House Jiang will be the only voice in Jinling, or even the entire Su province. Wu Bo, the author of the famous business commentator, The Big Break, wrote an article overnight. It was the final footnote of this earth-shattering financial war. Everyone fell silent when they saw this article. They felt a sense of sorrow in their hearts. The market value of Medicine King Group had skyrocketed to hundreds of billions. It was the largest pharmaceutical company in Huaxia. All the other listed companies in Jinling combined were no match for it. More importantly, the powerful connections, monstrous background, dazzling operational methods, and domineering demeanor that the Jiang family had displayed in this financial war were not something that the original 3 families could compare with. It could be said that by the end of this financial war, House Jiang would be the most powerful family in Jinling. They were even qualified to compete with the major families in Zhejiang province and Zhonghai. That night, the night was dark. The core members of House Nie, House Qin, and House Sun gathered in the house of Nie. My sister is on her way back, but we have to leave Jinling first. Nie Changhai said in a deep voice. But since Shuman is coming back, we have to fight side by side and destroy House Jiang. Chen Donglin was puzzled. Where there is life, there is hope. After my sister kills the House Jiang, the Medicine King Group will be in chaos. We can use this opportunity to raise funds abroad. After my sister succeeds, we will come back and take over the Medicine King Group. Nie Zhonghai was far-sighted and his eyes were sharp. It was as if he had become an ambitious and ruthless big shot who could intimidate a region. Besides, House Jiang has a powerful background. They have many friends and supporters in the government. If we leave now, we can avoid suspicion and be targeted by the government. That's right. Sun Lingyun expressed her support. Very well. By the time we come back, House Jiang would have already been destroyed. Chen Donglin had also made up his mind. Even as Nie Changhai was about to give the order to leave, a few bloodied security guards scrambled into the room. Outside the door, Su Ruoqing, who was wearing a tight-fitting leather jacket and leather pants, walked in with a blood-stained long knife in her hand. Her phoenix eyes were stern. Behind her was a group of thugs with long blades and axes in their hands. They looked murderous and ferocious. At the same time, the roar of engines came from outside the house. Lights flashed. There were at least 100 vehicles. It was a shocking sight. Su Ruoqing, what is the meaning of this? Why did you break into House Nie and hurt my family? Nie Changhai stepped forward and shouted angrily. I heard that Uncle Nie is going abroad. I, Su Ruoqing, am here to see you off. Su Ruoqing chuckled and emphasized the word, see you off. What do you mean? Nie Mingyuan was shocked. He knew that Su Ruoqing had already pledged allegiance to Jiang Tian, but he did not expect her to be so loyal to Jiang Tian, to the extent that she did not hesitate to become enemies with the 3 great clans for Jiang Tian. Nothing, Su Ruoqing sat down on Nie Mingyuan's seat as if she was the master of House Nie. She crossed her legs and said with a smile, "I'm afraid you won't be able to walk out of here tonight." "With just the few of you?" Nie Changhai looked at her with disdain. The Nie family had been deeply rooted in Jinling for decades, seizing and robbing. They lived a life of licking blood from the edge of the blade. How could they not raise a group of death warriors? In order to escape successfully, he had gathered all the thugs of the Qingyun society, including 3 who had reached phenomenal success in the iron body art. "I'm not the only one. Master Kong wants you dead. Many people are sharpening their swords." Su Ruoqing smiled and then looked at the door. She said loudly, "Since you're here, come in." Outside the door, Yi Gufeng, Dragon Fifth, and Zhou Zhenghao each brought their men in. Tai Ming Huang, Bai Choufei, and Tang Shaozi, the 3 great young thugs of Sheep City, also brought in the experts of South Ridge Flying Cloud Association. Shen Mange, Ghost Kick, Li Junwei, Qiu Gong, and other martial artists occupied the high ground of the villa. Nie Zhanghai and the others were dumbstruck when they saw so many experts arrive in unison, and they shuddered with fear. These people were undoubtedly here for the 3 major families of Jinlin City. In the end, a leisurely and cold voice enveloped the entire place. "Nie Changhai, I told you to wash your necks and wait for me to chop them off. I didn't tell you to leave." A man wearing a white shirt and casual pants walked in lazily. He had a calm expression on his face. "Jiang Tian." Nie Mingyuan glared at Jiang Tian with hatred. He gritted his teeth and glared at him. "Do you have to be so ruthless?" "Jiang Tian is here." Nie Changhai's body trembled violently. Everyone's expression also changed and they panicked. "Master Kong, please sit." Seeing Jiang Tian walk in, Su Ruoqing quickly gave the chair to Jiang Tian. She stood behind Jiang Tian like a maid. Jiang Tian walked in slowly and sat down on the chair calmly. This was the seat of the patriarch of the Nie family, but he seemed to take it for granted. Seeing this, Nie Mingyuan was furious and shouted, "Jiang Tian, this is not the place for you to sit." Seeing the culprit who destroyed the Nie family sitting on the seat of the patriarch of the Nie family, he was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. The blood in his chest was boiling. He couldn't wait to punch Jiang Tian. However, he was stopped by Nie Changhai. Nie Changhai frowned and said, "Master Kong, what are you trying to do?" The 3 major families don't just want to buy the Medicine King Group. Jiang Tian's face was calm, as if he was talking about something unrelated to him. He said indifferently, "They want to completely eliminate the Jiang family. After destroying the Jiang family's economic and political power, you want to kill them. At this point, you can stop lying." Chapter 251. Nie Zhanghai knew that there was no way for him to argue. He sighed and said, "Jiang Tian, I admit that it is true. Why?" Jiang Tian asked curiously, "What are you thinking? If you want money, you can just take the Medicine King Group. Tell me, don't make me torture you. I have 100 ways to make you wish you were dead." Nie Zhanghai gulped and said in a trembling voice, "It's the Japanese Cherry Blossom Society. They want an incomplete map of the Jiang family. It is said that this ancient map is related to the secret of the immortal state. Cherry Blossom Society? What kind of organization is that?" Everyone was confused. "It's a militaristic organization. They have a huge influence in Japan, just like the long formation of Huaxia." Su Ruoqing said. "Shameless!" Zhou Zhenghao shouted. "When the Japanese invaded China, they killed 300,000 innocent people in Jinlin City. Blood flowed like a river and bodies piled up like a mountain. As a descendant of the Yellow Emperor, you are willing to be the Japanese's lackey. Shameless. You've forgotten your ancestors. Shameless. This person is clearly a traitor. How dare he work for the Japanese? He should be hacked into pieces." Everyone was outraged and cursed loudly. Among them, Dragon Fifth, Zhou Zhenghao was not a good person at all. He had killed and robbed people, but he still held the bottom line. How could he be careless when it came to matters of national interest? "Amitba, You are all sinners of the nation. Kill yourselves to appease the world. I will chant Buddhist scriptures for you. Tang Xiaozi chanted Buddhist scriptures and shook his head, trying to persuade Nie Zhonghai and the rest to kill themselves. Mr. Jiang, why are you still talking to him? I'll just kill him. Su Ruoqing in particular was burning with rage. She ground her fine silver teeth, wanting nothing more than to tear Nie Zhonghai and the others into pieces. I see. I didn't expect the Japanese to be behind the Nie family and the other two families. Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes, and a murderous intent flashed across his eyes. Looks like I have to make a trip to Japan. And you are willing to be their lackeys, you deserve to be killed. Seeing the murderous intent in Jiang Tian's eyes, Nie Zhonghai said in a low voice, Master Kong, our three families have schemed and plotted thousands of times, but in the end, we still failed. Why won't you let us go? He let you go? If you succeed, will you let the Jiang family go? Jiang Tian's tone was cold and indifferent, like 10,000-year-old ice, icy cold without the slightest trace of emotion. He had returned after 10,000 years of cultivation just to take revenge. How could he be merciful at this moment? If he didn't kill every single one of them, if he didn't destroy every single one of them, if he didn't destroy every single one of them, if he didn't destroy every single one of them, how could he possibly give up? How could he possibly be satisfied? Jiang Tian, do you really want to fight to the death? Nie Zhonghai cried out in despair. Jiang Tian's arrival was too timely. If he had been an hour later, no, only 10 minutes later, they would have fled to Southeast Asia and the United States on a smuggling boat. Fight to the death? Jiang Tian picked up the teacup and took a sip, then said with a smile, You really know how to flatter your three great clans. Look at Huaxia. Which family, organization, or force is worthy of Jiang Tian fighting to the death? Including your big backer, Wudong, they are just ants that I, Jiang Tian, can casually kill. Charge out. Nie Zhonghai suddenly gritted his teeth and roared, Bian Shuedao Wang Ba, you take the lead. Everyone charge out together. Two brawny men responded loudly. Then, they exhaled and rushed out of the door with a group of bodyguards. Wang Ba and Bian Shuedao were the two most powerful experts under Nie Zhonghai. Both of them were at the iron body phenomenal success stage. They could crush rocks with their fists and kill leopards and tigers with a kick. They were also his most important bodyguards in this escape. Wang Ba and Bian Shuedao were wanted criminals in the past, but Nie Zhonghai took them in and used his connections to clear their names. It could be said that without Nie Zhonghai, they would have been caught and shot by the police. Therefore, they were also loyal to Nie Zhonghai. At this moment, even if they knew that they were in danger, they still took the lead and rushed to the door of the villa with their machetes. The foundation of the Nie, Sun, and Chen families is too weak. Seeing this, Jiang Tian looked calm and did not move. He just sipped his tea and chuckled disdainfully. Wang Ba and Bian Shuedao rushed to the door of the villa in the blink of an eye. You're courting death. In the crowd, Su Ruoqing's face was cold and stern. She snorted arrogantly and pulled out her machete. Her graceful and sexy body spun nimbly in the air like an antelope hanging its horns. The sharp machete covered a large area like mercury. Crash! There was a crash. Wang Ba's head was blown more than a meter high by the blood spurting out from his neck cavity. The headless body fell to the ground, splashing scarlet blood waves. Bian Shuedao's body was directly cut from his right shoulder to his left rib. His body was cut in two and fell to the ground. Steaming hot internal organs flowed all over the ground. Whoosh, whoosh. The friction between the soles of shoes and the floor suddenly sounded. Everyone slammed on the brakes and stopped in their tracks. They looked at Su Ruoqing with horror in their eyes. Under the horrified gaze of everyone, Su Ruoqing drew a bloody line at the door with her machete dripping with blood. Those who cross this line will be killed without mercy. Su Ruoqing's expression did not change at all after killing two iron body experts. It was as if she had just killed two ants. The scene was filled with horror. Some women were sobbing, some children were wailing, some were praying, and some were trembling. Who else dares to come and die? Su Ruoqing put one hand on her waist and twisted her right wrist. She drew a bright machete and threw the blood off the machete. She glanced at the crowd and asked in a deep voice. Su Ruoqing's attack was ruthless and merciless. She completely displayed her monstrous killing intent as the underground queen of Jinling City. Nie Zhonghai was so scared that his face turned ashen. Many people were so scared that their faces turned gloomy. They felt despair and kept quiet out of fear. The two most powerful experts of the Nie family were killed by Su Ruoqing. Who else would dare to fight against her? Fine. It's too late. Nie Zhonghai was stunned for a long time. Then he suddenly heaved a sigh and knelt down toward Jiang Tian. He begged in a trembling voice. Master Kong, it's my fault for plotting against the Jiang family. It has nothing to do with the Nie family. I can take the responsibility by myself. Please let the rest of the Nie family go. Father! Brother Zhonghai! Seeing this, many members of the Nie family exclaimed. Their hearts were filled with pain, sorrow, and despair. Nie Zhonghai had dominated Jinling City for decades. He was ruthless and resourceful. But now, he could only kneel down and beg for mercy, which meant that he could not think of any way to fight back or escape. On the other hand, Nie Zhonghai had always been proud and unyielding, and he wasn't even afraid of the secretary of the municipal party committee. But at this moment, he disregarded his dignity and face and knelt down to beg for mercy. It could be said that he had lost all face and was in an extremely sorry state. This made Chen Donglin and Sun Lingyun grieve for the loss of the rabbit. Kill yourself. As soon as Jiang Tian finished speaking, bang! Zhou Zhenghao threw a dagger at him. Nie Zhonghai's body trembled. The whole area was silent. Everyone was frightened. The dagger was about half a foot long. It was sharp and flashing with cold light, revealing an extremely cold aura. Even looking at it made one's heart feel cold, not to mention stabbing one's heart or cutting one's throat with the dagger. But now, Nie Zhonghai had no other choice. Amidst the silence, his eyes were dull and empty as he slowly picked up the dagger. Father Thno! Nie Mingyuan let out a cry. He wanted to go forward but was kicked to the ground by Ghost Foot. As for the others, they had been frightened by Jiang Tian's overwhelming power. How could they dare to fart? Nie Zhonghai's heart was filled with sorrow. He trembled because of fear and tears came out of his eyes. His heart was filled with regret, pain, and helplessness. He had killed countless people in his life. He had seen his opponents cry in despair and helplessness. But he had never thought that it would be his turn so soon and that his life would end in such a miserable way. But he didn't have the right to blame Jiang Tian. Because this was the Jianghu, the cruel truth of the world, the law of the jungle. He had fallen and failed because he was not strong enough. If he had defeated the Medicine King group, he would not have had any mercy. He would have killed Jiang Tian, or even more cruelly. If I kill myself, you let go of the Nie family. Nie Zhonghai breathed heavily and begged pitifully with tears in his eyes. He held the dagger with both hands and pointed the tip of the dagger at his chest. His gaze was resolute, but also bitter. Jiang Tian, please let go of my father. I am willing to die for my father. We know that we are wrong. Nie Mingyuan couldn't control himself anymore. He gave up his dignity as the young master of the Jinling City and knelt down to beg for mercy. He kowtowed to Jiang Tian so hard that blood came out of his forehead. You are all losers. You have no right to bargain with me. Jiang Tian's tone was cold, but his heart was aching. In his previous life, when the Medicine King group was defeated by the Nie family, he had also begged and knelt down to beg for mercy. But the father and son of the Nie family were like high and mighty nobles. They were cold and merciless, looking at him as if he was an ant. Now, the wheel of fortune had turned. The hatred that had accumulated for 10,000 years was finally avenged. Jiang Tun was overjoyed and happy. Mingyuan, don't make trouble. Nie Zhonghai turned his head and scolded. Then, he glanced at the Nie family members reluctantly and said in a deep voice, After I die, you must remember that today's grudge must never be mentioned again. Also, the Nie family members must not compete with others for benefits, practice martial arts, or bully others. They must pass on poetry and literature to the family, stand aloof from worldly affairs, and be kind to others. Otherwise, I will not die in peace. Father, brother Zhanghai, uncle, the Nye family members knelt down and wailed. Nye Zhanghai's old mother even cried so hard that her limbs twitched and she passed away. The current Nye family could be said to be a complete tragedy. They were like fish on a chopping board, unable to resist, and were at the mercy of others. Nye Zhanghai was determined to die. Only if he committed suicide as an apology would Jiang Tian let the Nye family off. Puchi. Nye Zhanghai looked at the crowd resolutely. He raised his hand and the sharp dagger plunged directly into his heart. The dagger was completely buried, leaving only the hilt. It could be seen that he was very determined to die. Blood dripped down, and Nye Zhanghai's mouth also oozed blood. He smiled bitterly and said, "Master Kong, is it enough?" "Not enough." Jiang Tian looked at him with a smile, and the corners of his mouth curved into a cruel and cold smile. Chapter 252. Okay, Nye Zhanghai took a deep breath, pulled out the dagger, and stabbed it into his heart again. "Master Kong, can you let go of my Nye family?" Nye Zhanghai spat out blood and smiled miserably. "You're scaring me." Jiang Tian laughed and patted his chest. Then he smiled meaningfully. "When did I say I'll let go of your Nye family? I'm going to wipe out your Nye family and leave no one alive. You're going to watch them die one by one." "What? You went back on your word." Nye Zhanghai glared at Jiang Tian with hatred. He staggered to his feet and fell to the ground again. Hearing this, Yi Gufeng, Dragon Fifth, Zhou Zhenghao, and the others' expressions changed drastically. They all shuddered. To be honest, although Jiang Tian was strong before, he would never kill the innocent. Today, however, he was a bit too ruthless. Jiang Tian, you dared to kill my father. I want revenge. I want to kill you." In the crowd, a 7- or 8-year-old child suddenly stood up. His face was full of hatred and gloominess. He pointed at Jiang Tian and cursed. "Very good, you've got guts. As expected of Nye Zhanghai's son. You know how to take revenge at such a young age. You're a bit ambitious." Jiang Tian praised with a smile. "Uncle wanted to let you go, but I can't give you a chance now." Su Ruoqing frowned. She quickly stepped forward, grabbed the child, and threw him to the ground. "Jiangdan, fuck you," the child screamed in pain from the fall. He even cursed half a sentence, but he couldn't do anything after that. Because Su Ruoqing's long saber had already chopped down. The child's head flew off and fell to the ground. He couldn't be more dead. "My son." Nye Zhanghai wailed and glared at Jiang Tian with hatred. You're a demon." This was the youngest son of his mistress. He had always been very cute, but now he died an unnatural death. "Hey, you even know my nickname. Are you my long-lost kindergarten classmate?" Jiang Tian let out a hearty laugh as he shot out a few silver needles and hit them on Nye Zhanghai, Nye Mingyuan, Chen Donglin, and Sun Lingyun's major acupoints. "This is a life-hanging needle. Even if your heart is pierced through and you lose too much blood, it will keep you awake and alive until the last drop of blood flows into your body." Jiang Tian stood up lazily with his hands behind his back and smiled leisurely. "In the process, you will suffer physical torture. Also, you will be able to enjoy the wonderful pictures of your wives, children, and parents being killed one by one." As he spoke, he slowly walked outside and said with a smile, "Everyone, please enjoy this carnival-like night of slaughter. This is a rare opportunity. Don't leave a single one alive. Kill them all." With a cold expression, he left without looking back. "Don't leave a single one alive." Even Dragon the Fifth, Zhou Zhenghao, Bai Chou Fei, and the other ruthless members of the society shuddered. Truly ruthless enough. What kind of person was Jiang Tian? Taichu Immortal Venerable was a nickname given to those of the same path. Back then, he swept through the universe and killed countless people, dyeing the starry sky with blood. More often than not, he was called Taichu Old Demon and Starry Sky Butcher. It could be said that the ordinary people of the boundless universe were nothing more than ants and dust in his eyes. If he killed them, then he killed them. How could they cause the slightest ripple in his heart? So what if he slaughtered 3 families? After Jiang Tian left, Su Ruoqing walked towards the kneeling people with a knife and said indifferently, "Apart from Nie Mingyuan and the 3 family heads, let everyone else die a quick death." She slashed down, and Nie Mingyuan's 18-year-old daughter fell into a pool of blood, her neck broken. Since Master Kong has given the order, then let's start. Zhou Zhenghao rubbed his fists with excitement in his eyes. Kill to your heart's content. There are dozens of people. Bai Chou Fei also took out a long knife and approached the crowd. He had often killed people over the years. If he didn't kill people, how could he get to the top and succeed? Looking at the 5,000 years of Hua Xia's history, for those who were truly at the top, most of their grand ambitions had to be accomplished by killing people. As the saying goes, killing 1 is a crime, slaughtering 10,000 is a hero. Killing 10,000 is a hero among heroes. Everyone began to move, and the entire Nie family villa began to emit waves of heart-wrenching screams, the wailing of children and women, and the helpless begging for mercy. The slaughter began. Heads rolled and blood flowed like a river. The momentum of the 3 families was gone, and no one was spared. There were actually hundreds of people inside and outside the Nie family villa. Su Ruoqing had more than 100 fierce people from many clubs under the Banana Club. There were also the capable people that Dragon Fifth and Zhou Zhenghao had mobilized from Jiangbei and Bai Chou Fei from Lingnan's Flying Cloud Club. It could be said that they had surrounded the Nie family's villa so tightly that not even a fly could fly out. With so many experts attacking together, it was simply a one-sided massacre. They didn't encounter any decent resistance. Thanks to Nie Zhanghai's idea of escaping overnight, the Chen family and the Sun family were all gathered together, but they were defeated by Jiang Tian and the others. The slaughter lasted for half an hour. Finally, the screams and cries gradually subsided. Bai Chou Fei, who was dripping with blood, stepped out of a room with a long saber. He laughed heartily and said, "Damn, after so many years, this is the first time I've killed people to my heart's content. It's really fucking satisfying. Working for Master Kong is just so satisfying." Su Ruoqing's long saber was bent, and his eyes were full of excitement. "Alas, who told you to provoke Master Kong? Rest in peace, don't open your eyes. It's good to believe in Buddha like me. Your painful life is over. When you reincarnate as a human, you must remember to believe in Buddha." Tang Xiaozi twirled the Buddha beads, put his palms together, and chanted sutras for the dead. He nagged, his face full of compassion and piety. During this process, although Nie Zhanghai and the others were stabbed many times, and blood flowed like water, their consciousness was still clear. They painfully watched their loved ones fall one by one and leave this world. "Miss Ruoqing, what should we do next?" Yi Gufeng looked at the corpses all over the ground. The pungent smell of blood made him very uncomfortable. He frowned and looked at Su Ruoqing. "Mr. Yi, don't worry. Leave everything to me." Su Ruoqing smiled sweetly and clapped her hands. Then, several strong men came out with large barrels of gasoline and poured the inside and outside of the villa. Everyone left the villa. Su Ruoqing picked up a cigarette and her eyes twitched. She glanced at the beautiful villa and sneered, "Don't bully the young for being poor. I didn't expect that the 3 great families of Jinling would have such a miserable ending." After saying that, she gently flicked the cigarette in her hand. It drew an elegant arc and fell into the gasoline. Boom! There was a loud sound. The beautiful European-style manor suddenly burst into flames one after another, like fireworks in the night sky. So beautiful! Su Ruoqing was intoxicated with admiration. Wow! Suddenly, a figure came out of the flames. He was covered in flames and screamed at the top of his lungs. "Jiang Tian, I won't let you go. I won't let you go. I will take revenge." The person covered in flames was Nie Mingyuan. Everyone looked at Nie Mingyuan in silence, but no one came forward to help him put out the fire. He was covered in flames, rolling and flailing on the ground. The flames gradually died out. However, he gradually passed out on the lawn. He doesn't seem to be dead. Should we go and finish him off? Bai Chofei's eyes were bloodshot. He wanted to go forward with a long knife. Forget it. There is still a lot of gasoline left. It will burn you. Yi Gufeng reached out and stopped him. How long can he last with such a high fever? If we send him to the hospital now, even the gods can't save him. Su Ruocheng said with a disdainful smile. Just like that, everyone stood on the hillside outside the villa, smoking and chatting, watching the flames in the villa burn fiercely. Bai Chofei and Tai Minghuang even took out duck neck peanuts and small erguotu to eat with wine. They talked and laughed to their heart's content. After another half an hour, the flames in the villa gradually died out. Then, everyone dispersed. After burning for so long, there was no way anyone could survive. After everyone left, beep, 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 police cars, fire trucks, and ambulances rushed over. Brothers, take it easy. The fire captain smoked a cigarette and said leisurely, the higher-ups have ordered us to put out the fire in 8 hours. What's going on? Captain, it's already so hot. There isn't much fire left. We can put it out in half an hour. Yeah, his friends were all stunned, their faces full of confusion. Why do you care so much? Anyway, that's what the higher-ups said. The fire captain took out a set of poker cards and said with a smile, Come, let's play a few rounds of landlord. Come, let's play landlord. Everyone seemed to have understood something. They took off their fire helmets and enthusiastically participated in this activity that was beneficial to their physical and mental health. In the blink of an eye, the sky turned bright. Only then did the firefighters lazily walk into the villa and put out the fire. It only took them 10 minutes to drive back home. The next day, the Jinling Morning News reported that a villa in the western suburbs suddenly caught fire. 5 people died on the spot, and some were injured. This news only lasted for 5 seconds. Other than that, there were no other details. In the early morning of the day after the fire, clatter, a beautiful and slender figure stood outside the Nye family villa. The luggage in her hand suddenly fell to the ground. She stared blankly at the Nye manor, which was now in a complete mess. Her pretty face was filled with shock, and then, sparkling and translucent tears seeped out of her clear eyes. The once beautiful Nye clan, the once beautiful times, had now turned into a pile of dilapidated fences and dilapidated walls, ruins, and black soil. It had vanished into thin air. Mom, big brother, little Yuan, little Feng. The woman's beautiful face was pale. She was full of sorrow and her voice was trembling. Beside her, a tall and handsome young man supported her and asked with concern, Shueman, are you okay? After hearing the news, Nye Shueman, who had just finished her closed-door training, rushed over. It only took her a few hours to fly to the Nye residence. After leaving the airport, she rushed to the Nye residence without stopping. However, she was a step late. She couldn't accept the fact that the Nye residence was in ruins. How could this be? Nye Shueman rushed into the villa as if she had gone crazy. In the ruins, she dug around and finally dug out a petite corpse. Nye Shueman hugged the severely carbonized body. Her delicate body trembled. Tears rolled down her face as she screamed toward the sky. Not far away, the eldest senior brother suddenly shouted, Junior sister, there's a living person here. Chapter 253. Nye Shueman hurriedly ran over. She saw that the man was burned beyond recognition, and there was not a single piece of skin on his body that was intact. He looked like a cracked tree bark. He opened his mouth, but he could only make a meaningless sound. Life-prolonging pill. Nye Shueman hurriedly shouted. Senior brother Li Mubai did not hesitate to feed the man a precious pill that was filled with spiritual energy and fragrance. After a while, the dying man opened his mouth with difficulty. Nye Shueman cried out in surprise with tears in her eyes. She helplessly stroked his cheeks and body. She really couldn't imagine that the person in front of her, who had been burned to the point of looking like charcoal, was actually her suave and handsome nephew. Who did this? Nie Shuemon's heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. She was in so much pain that she gritted her teeth in hatred. She was only an abandoned daughter adopted by the Nie family. She was not related to Nie Mingyuan by blood. In fact, she was 2 years younger than Nie Mingyuan. When she was in her teenage years, she and Nie Mingyuan had feelings for each other. They were ambiguous and gentle, and there was only one thing that they did not cross. And it's Jiang Tian from the Jiang family. He joined forces with Lingnan's forces and Su Ruoqing to annihilate my entire family, Nie Mingyuan wailed in a trembling voice. Aunt, you must take revenge. Kill Jiang Tian. Kill him. After saying that, Nie Mingyuan fainted again. Jiang Tian, I'm going to tear you into pieces. Nie Shuemon's beautiful face was filled with a tragic murderous aura. Her body trembled as she shouted loudly with a cruel and bloodthirsty aura. A strong aura was emitted from her seemingly delicate and graceful body. It then spread in all directions. Suddenly, smoke and dust billowed and shattered the floor. Shunan, saving people is more important. Seeing the sharp murderous aura in Nie Shuemon's eyes, Li Mubai reminded her gently. But Nie Shuemon nodded. Although her family was annihilated and her nephew was seriously injured, Nie Shuemon was eager to take revenge. However, she could not wait to save people. Nie Shuan brought many life-saving medicines from Wudang sect. She used all of them on Nie Mingyuan. Then, she carried Nie Mingyuan and quickly left the ruins, disappearing into the night. Due to the government deliberately blocking the news of the Nie family, Chen family, and Sun family being exterminated was only spread among the fixed social class. However, some of the rich people and high-ranking officials who had been paying close attention to the dispute between the Jiang family and the 3 big families had also vaguely sensed the truth behind this matter. Everyone was in danger, and they were all frightened out of their wits. We must not provoke the Jiang family. Many families in Jinling held an emergency meeting to discuss countermeasures, and this sentence became the final conclusion, which was regarded as a standard by many big shots. As for the police and other official organizations, after an in-depth and detailed investigation, they quickly denied the possibility of intentional arson and did not file a case. For this fire, they only prepared a simple case, and the file was locked in an extremely secret cabinet. No one was qualified to read it. The case became an unsolved mystery, but it was nothing more than an insignificant wave in the torrent of history. For ordinary citizens, it was just an ordinary fire in the western suburbs of Jinling. A few people died, and it was quickly forgotten. Yu family's villa. In an old and simple office, the windows were clean and the table was clean. Under the light, Secretary Yu was reading a document. Father, everything has been settled. Yu Chang walked in quickly and said with a smile. Well, that's good. Nodding his head, Secretary Yu placed the document down and faintly said, This is a gift that we're giving to Jiang Tian on behalf of the Chao family. In the future, he will understand and shake hands with the Chao family and even work for the country. But Yu Chang wanted to say something but stopped. You are talking about Nie Shuemen, the disciple of Wu Dang sect. Secretary Yu said with a smile. Father, you're wise. Hee. What do you think the Nie family is relying on to run amok? Wu Dang sect? Secretary Yu said lightly, we left them alive so that Nie Shuemen can pass a message to them. Hua Xia is a land of no return, and martial artists are not allowed to cause trouble. Otherwise, this will be the consequence. Secretary Yu rose to his feet and exuded a powerful aura. It was as sharp as an unsheathed sword. It was as if this was the true face of a feudal official. But what if Nie Shuemen and Wu Dang sect seek revenge on Jiang Tian? Yu Chang asked worriedly. Hua Xia has been relying on Jiang Tian to keep the martial arts world under control for the past 30 years. But in the next 30 years, Hua Xia will have to rely on Jiang Tian. Secretary Yu said lightly. Kong Teichu is a very talented man. He has reached the peak of transcendent state before the age of 30. Do you think Wu Dang sect will be happy if they declare war on Kong Teichu? I understand now. Yu Chang replied. After a moment of hesitation, he said, according to our sources, the three major families of the Nye family are targeting the Jiang family because of a piece of a map. Piece of a map? What map? Secretary Yu asked curiously. Jiang Tian didn't ask and Nye Zhonghai didn't tell us. But I think the force behind them is the Japanese Cherry Blossom Society. It is the Cherry Blossom Society. Secretary Yu's face contorted in shock. Then he snorted and said, the Cherry Blossom Society is the archenemy of Hua Xia's military and the long-time war. Who would have thought that they would have an agent in Jin City? On the other hand, Nye Zhonghai and the others were originally from Jinling. Bearing the hatred of their country, they were actually willing to be the lackeys of the East Asian people. They deserve to die. Well done, Jiang Tian. After he finished his report, Yu Chang slowly left Secretary Yu's office. Piece of a map? What kind of map could trigger the Cherry Blossom Society? Secretary Yu looked out of the window and pondered for a while. Suddenly, he heaved a sigh and said, I think I should report this to Lord Chao. 2 days had passed since the three major families of Jin City. Meanwhile, Jiang Tian and his father, Yi Ziwei, had returned to Jiang Manor to see Jiang Chang'an. Tian heir, are you the one behind the destruction of the three major families of Jin City? Jiang Chang'an asked with furrowed brows. Yes, it's me. Jiang Tian did not deny it. Zhang Wanqing knew that the old man was an old-fashioned man, so she quickly spoke up for her son. Old man, you can't blame Jiang Tian for this, I understand. The three great clans harbored evil intentions and wanted to destroy my Jiang clan. Even death cannot wipe out their crimes. However, by doing this, will Jiang Tian attract enemies? Jiang Chang'an sighed and said worriedly. Grandpa, don't worry. Jiang Tian held Jiang Chang'an's hand and said with a smile, I've had a fortuitous encounter. I'm not an ordinary person anymore, I know. You can drive away the crimson fire for a long time and make Chao Shixiang treat you with respect. You are definitely not an ordinary person, but... Jiang Chang'an couldn't help but be a little worried. Fine. Looks like I have to show my strength. Grandpa, look. Jiang Tian sighed helplessly, and then he pressed his fingers together and waved them. A sharp blade light that was around 10 m long swept out. Suddenly, a 3-meter-tall rockery in the courtyard was cut in half and collapsed. Jiang Tian, how did you do that? Is this your trump card? The whole family was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. Mom, I was fighting in the bar to protect the reputation of the Medicine King group. Jiang Chao was being pulled by the ear by his second aunt to Jiang Chang'an. He had broken the family rules and was sent to the police station a while ago. He begged for mercy. And it was the other party who started it. I've always been the first to talk, but the police didn't listen to my explanation and took me to the police station. You have to speak up for me in front of Grandpa. Don't let Grandpa hit me with a cane. While he was nagging, he suddenly saw Jiang Tian waving his finger and the rockery was cut in half. It was a shocking scene. Oh my God! Jiang Chao was so scared that he fell to the ground. His whole body was weak and he could not stand up. This time, if it were to land on his body, wouldn't he be chopped to death? How did he do it? He was about 10 meters away from the rockery. Is my son a god? Jiang Chang'an, Jiang Zhixing and Yi Ziwei looked at Jiang Tian in shock as if they were looking at a stranger. Even when Jiang Tian drove the crimson fire at the old man's birthday banquet, they were not as shocked as when he chopped the rockery. Second aunt was also scared out of her wits. She stood at the door and bowed respectfully to Jiang Tian with a trembling voice. Greetings, family head, old master. Jiang Chao was reckless in the fight, but he was protecting the family's reputation. He was exempted from punishment. Go now. Jiang Tian waved his hand and said, Thank you for your forgiveness. The second aunt and Jiang Chao knelt down together and then slowly walked away. After the two of them were gone, Jiang Tian looked at the old man and said lightly, Old man, do you have confidence in me now? Jiang Tian, who exactly are you? Jiang Chang'an's heart was filled with shock and disbelief. Jiang Zhixing and Yi Ziwei also looked at Jiang Tian with puzzled faces. They also had the same question in their minds. Grandpa, do you know about martial artists? I have heard of them. Jiang Changing suppressed the shock in his heart and said slowly, "It is said that martial arts and medicine are closely related. To practice martial arts, one needs to understand the theory of meridians, acupoints, and the human body. Doctors, especially the best doctors, are the most likely to come into contact with martial artists. After all, martial artists can also be injured or poisoned." Jiang Changing paused for a second and then said, "Although the Jiang family is not a martial arts family, I have met a couple of martial artists. I know that martial artists are divided into iron body, internal force, and transcendent state. It is said that the iron body is not afraid of cold weapons and internal force can kill through objects without leaving any trace. The transcendent state martial artists are known as grandmasters. They can refine qi into righteousness and condense qi into weapons. They can even hurt people with flying flowers and leaves. Wow, that is so powerful." Jiang Zhixing, Yi Ziwei, and Jiang Zhixing were stunned. They could not believe that there was such a terrifying and powerful being in this world. Suddenly, the old man said in shock, "Tiyu, are you one of the legendary martial artists? Transcendent state?" "No, Grandpa, I'm practicing a different system called cultivation." Jiang Tian said lightly, "I am only in the middle and late stages of qi refining, but I am already comparable to a martial artist at the peak of the transcendent state." "What? You are already at the transcendent state?" "Our Jiang family actually produced a martial arts grandmaster." Jiang Changing was shocked. Then he clapped his hands and laughed, "Ha! No wonder Chao Shixiang treated you with such respect." Jiang Zhixing and Yi Ziwei were also proud. Chapter 254. Zhang Wanqing snorted and said proudly that Nie Zhanghai and the others think that the Jiang family is easy to bully. My son is actually a master. He's clearly courting death. Jiang Tian said leisurely, "The path of cultivation is deep and mysterious. It can be said that the highest level of a martial artist is only the basic stage of cultivation. If you can cultivate to a very high level, your body will be indestructible, your divine sense will not die, and you will ascend to immortality. You can destroy mountains and rivers with one strike and throw cities with a raise of your hand." Jiang Tian took a sip of tea and said slowly, "You can even travel the universe, step into outer space, become a god, destroy a planet with a punch, destroy all living things with a snap of your fingers, until you can open up a universe that belongs to you. Cultivation is actually so magical. Oh my god, that's really a god. No, it's even more powerful than the legendary gods." Jiang Changing and the others felt as if they were dreaming. They were dumbfounded and could not believe it. If they had not seen Jiang Tian's remarkable power with their own eyes, they would have thought that Jiang Tian was crazy and talking nonsense. But at this moment, they suddenly felt that if Jiang Tian had such ability, it was natural for him to destroy the three major families of Jinling. For such a peerless powerhouse, human lives were really like dust and ants, not worth mentioning. "Grandpa, Mom, Dad, Mom, Sister Ziwei, I gathered everyone today because I want to lead everyone into the path of cultivation." Jiang Tian glanced at the family and smiled. "Can we also cultivate like you? This old man is willing to cultivate with you." Jiang Changing could not believe it at first, then he suddenly stood up and saluted as a disciple. Years ago, he had the 5 signs of decay and almost died, so he knew how precious life and health were. Even if he could not cultivate to the powerful realm that Jiang Tian said, it would be good to live a few more years healthily and not be tortured by illness. "Grandpa, don't be so polite. I hope to accompany you forever." Jiang Tian was shocked and hurriedly returned the courtesy. "Humph, if I live for another 100 years, my face will be full of wrinkles, and my teeth will fall out. If I still don't die, won't I become a 1,000-year-old witch? So ugly." Zhang Wanqing was also a little moved, but she still joked. "Mom, I know that you love beauty, but cultivators can rejuvenate themselves and keep their youth forever. They can realize the real reverse growth." Jiang Tian was speechless. His mother was still trying to look pretty at this moment. He laughed and said, "When the time comes, you will look like a 16-year-old girl." You will be so beautiful. It's so much better than those cosmetics. This hit his mother's weak spot. She immediately said excitedly, "Then I'll cultivate too." Your mother is going to become a beautiful young lady, and I'm going to become an old man. What should I do? Who knows, your mother might even abandon me. I'll cultivate too. Jiang Zhixing chuckled. You bastard. What are you talking about? The child will laugh at you. In my heart, you will always be a handsome guy. Zhang Wanqing smiled and pinched her husband. Instantly, the whole family agreed. Jiang Tian said, I'll teach each of you a set of cultivator's skills later. Then, Jiang Tian changed the topic. He looked at Grandpa Jiang and said seriously, Grandpa, do you know that there is a mastermind behind the Nye family and the other two families? It's called the Japanese Cherry Blossom Society. The Japanese? Grandpa Jiang was surprised. How is that possible? Why would we provoke the Japanese? That's why I killed them. Jiang Tian took a sip of tea and said slowly, the three families don't just want to control the Medicine King group. They want to be the lackeys of the Cherry Blossom Society and exterminate the Jiang family. Their ultimate goal is to snatch a piece of the map. Piece of the map? It can't be that map, right? Jiang Changing frowned and pondered. Grandpa, what's the origin of that map? It's coveted by the Cherry Blossom Society? Jiang Tian asked. He had communicated with Tang Guizhou over the past 2 days and found out how powerful and terrifying the Cherry Blossom Society was. The Cherry Blossom Society was established during World War II. It was formed by Japanese kendo masters, ninjas, onmyoges, and other strange people who adhered to militarism. It could be said that there were many strong people and experts. Its president was like the imperial preceptor of Japan, on equal footing with the emperor. After nearly 100 years of development, the Cherry Blossom Society's strength grew day by day. They had terrifying influence in the military, political, and economic fields. They could influence national policies and instigate wars. Many tycoons like Matsushita and Sumitomo were proud to join the Cherry Blossom Society. Even their leaders had to be courteous when they met. In short, in terms of martial strength, the Cherry Blossom Society could compete with the long formation of Huaxia. However, in terms of influence in the secular world, the Cherry Blossom Society was even better, like the retired Emperor of Japan. This map fragment, it's a long story. Jiang Changing's eyes were deep as if he had fallen into the memories of the past. He said in a deep voice, during the Republic of China, your great-grandfather was a famous divine doctor. One day, he was treating patients at the Jinling Medicine King Clinic when a man dressed like a Taoist suddenly barged in. There were many spies chasing after him. Your grandfather saw that the pursuers were Japanese and knew that this should be an anti-Japanese hero, so he hid him and let him escape. He even treated his injuries. However, at that time, the world was in chaos. There was a shortage of medicine and in the end, this hero died. However, before he died, he still gave this map fragment to your great-grandfather. Moreover, this hero said before he died that this map fragment involves the secrets of the immortal ruins and the immortal land. He must keep it safe and must not let it fall into the hands of outsiders. Involves the secrets of the immortal ruins and the immortal land. Jiang Tian's eyes lit up and his heart was in turmoil. He said in a deep voice, Grandpa, where is this map fragment now? This map fragment was given to the young lady of Yanjin as a betrothal gift for you. Jiang Changing shook his head and sighed. Now that I think about it, this map fragment was the most important reason why that family wanted to marry us. At that time, they asked for the map fragment of the immortal ruins. I thought that our Jiang family was not a martial arts family and it would be a waste to keep it. I also wanted to find a good wife for you, so I agreed. Who would have thought that later on, he actually gave it to them? Jiang Tian's brows were tightly furrowed as he felt a sense of loss. When his master took him away from Earth, he had looked back at Earth and said that there was a wasteland in the depths of space near Earth. There were abundant cultivation resources. This should be the legendary immortal ruins. In his previous life, When his master took him away, he was already very powerful and had no interest in this immortal ruins. Therefore, he just looked at it for a while and took him away into the depths of the universe. But in this life, Jiang Tian's return had caused a series of butterfly effects. His master was likely not to come to Earth. Then he needed to set foot on the Ancient Star Road, and the first stop on the Ancient Star Road should be the immortal ruins. But he didn't expect that he couldn't find the map fragment even though he knew about the existence of the immortal ruins. It doesn't matter. Jiang Tian suddenly became spirited. His eyes shone brightly and his heart was filled with killing intent. The marriage contract has been annulled. The map fragment of the immortal ruins will naturally be returned to the Jiang family. Sooner or later, I will kill her family and ask for it back. If they obediently return it, I will let it go. If they don't, I will kill her family. Although he thought so in his heart, in order to not worry his family, Jiang Tian asked with a calm expression. He asked calmly, "Grandpa, is there a copy of the map fragment? I want to see." "There is a copy. Wait for me to get it." Jiang Changing went into the study. When he came out, he handed a piece of paper to Jiang Tian. These words and patterns. Jiang Tian took a closer look and could not help but be slightly moved, revealing a somewhat surprised expression. Through this copy, it could be seen that this map fragment was only a part of the original map. It was a map. This place should be on top of a high mountain, and the mountains were undulating. In addition, there were some strange words. Jiang Tian had never seen or heard of these ancient words before. He didn't know which era they were from. Some were as calm as a tortoise, some were as soaring as a dragon, and some were as roaring as a kirin. This map fragment must be hiding a great secret. Unfortunately, it is only a part of it. I don't know where the rest is. However, Jiang Tian felt that these words had a natural flavor. They actually had the charm of the Tao patterns and laws of the immortal world. This also meant that the original map might be a map, or more likely a magic treasure. After learning about the clues about the ruins of immortality, Jiang Tian was not in a hurry to find it. Jiang Tian suspected that the ruins of immortality might even be related to ancient secrets. This secret realm could be said to be illusory. Even if Jiang Tian had a lot of connections now, it was not something that could be found overnight. The most important thing now was to help his family embark on the road of cultivation. "Grandpa, I will first teach you a set of cultivation methods, the 3 pure foundational arts." Jiang Tian came back to his senses and said leisurely. The 3 pure foundational arts was a set of basic cultivation methods in the cultivation world. Its biggest feature was that it could temper the cultivator's foundation and temperament to be as stable as a rock and indestructible. Moreover, this set of cultivation methods also had the effect of strengthening the body. After cultivating, one would be immune to all poisons, water, and fire, and could live to the ripe old age of 200. Once one reached the Qi cultivation realm, using this set of cultivation methods in actual combat would be smoother and stronger. It was like the torrential waters of the Yangtze River, advancing courageously. It could be said that its potential was unlimited. "Okay." The 4 of them responded. Suddenly, they heard the sound of the great Tao in the depths of their minds. The vastness of things is incomparable to the heavens and the earth, but there is also a limit. The vastness of the heavens, the extremity of yin and yang. The vastness of the earth, the extremity of hardness and softness. The extremity of yin and yang leads to the formation of the 4 seasons. The extremity of hardness and softness leads to the formation of the 4 dimensions. The heavens are born to move, and the earth is born to remain still. The intersection of motion and stillness leads to the end of the Tao of the heavens and the earth. The beginning of motion leads to the birth of yang, and the extremity of motion leads to the birth of yin. The intersection of yin and yang leads to the end of the heavens. It was like the sound of a yellow bell ringing, but also like the sound of an immortal singing, giving people an ethereal and enlightening feeling. Jiang Changing and the others were shocked. They looked at each other in disbelief. They did not see Jiang Tian speak at all. How could they hear the sound? "Don't panic. This is my divine sense voice transmission. I will directly copy this set of cultivation methods into your minds. Jiang Tian's slow voice sounded in their minds again, guiding them to comprehend the essence of this set of cultivation methods. After that, Jiang Tian taught each of them a set of immortal martial techniques that were suitable for them according to their personalities. Jiang Changing was honest and steady. He learned the Saint Heart King's fist. This set of fist techniques was a combination of hardness and softness. It was smooth and transparent. It was both offensive and defensive. It was awe-inspiring. Zhang Wanqing was competitive and never gave up. She was not inferior to men. What she learned was the sword technique of raising eyebrows of women. This set of sword techniques attacked fiercely and pressed forward with indomitable will. It was awe-inspiring and domineering. Dad and Yi Ziwei also each received a set of immortal martial techniques. Chapter 255. It only took one afternoon for Jiang Tian to pass the cultivation method coefficients to the three of them. In the end, he gave them some advice. Finally, he said, the path of cultivation is like rowing a boat against the current. If you don't advance, you will fall behind. You must have a firm mentality to explore the path of cultivation. You must cultivate diligently. Don't waste a day. Looking at the three of them nodding obediently like primary school students, Jiang Tian couldn't help but want to laugh. He had been back for more than a year. He was getting more and more accustomed to this society. His relationship with his family was gradually recovering. That feeling, it was as if the 10,000 years of cultivation was just a dream, as if he had just woken up from an illness. Just 3 years ago, he was still a bastard in the eyes of his grandparents. But in the blink of an eye, he had become the backer and hope of the Jiang family in their eyes. He was even a godly master and senior. That night, Jiang Tian accompanied the old man to dinner in Jiang Manor. To his surprise, many people in the Jiang family came back together as if they had made an appointment. Sister-in-law, have you heard? The Nye family, the Chen family, and the Sun family, the three big families that were eyeing our Jiang family covetously, are all finished. Little Aunt talked to Zhang Wanqing, but the corner of her eyes glanced at Jiang Tian, who was teasing Jiang Weiner with a lollipop. Isn't that so? I heard that the three listed companies under their control were all secretly controlled by a private equity fund registered overseas. Big Aunt also said excitedly. I also heard that the people of the three big families were trying to run away, but they were all wiped out. Not a single person was left alive, Big Aunt said mysteriously. Sister-in-law, I heard that it was little Tian's ability. Is it true? Yeah, I also heard that no one went to put out the fire. It burned for the whole night. Is it Elder Chow and the other officials who helped Jiang Tian? Everyone surrounded Zhang Wanqing and asked her all kinds of questions excitedly. It could be said that the destruction of the three big families was great news for the Jiang family. Everyone was shocked and ecstatic. Half a month ago, the Jiang family was still in a precarious situation under the combined suppression of the three major families in Jinling, Tianwei Pharmaceutical Company, and Hong Kong's White Knight Foundation. Who would have thought that the Jiang family would make a comeback in just half a month? The three major families of Jinling were completely finished. White Knight had retreated to Hong Kong, and the Chen family of Beijing had lost half of their lives. What? The three great clans have been annihilated. Jiang Bangxia looked at Jiang Tian's back. She covered her mouth and dared not speak. Cold sweat was pouring down her face. She had participated in the financial war against the three families, but she didn't know that there was a bloody massacre after the war. Jiang Chao looked at Jiang Tian as if he was looking at a god. His eyes were filled with fear and trepidation. This trash cousin of his had silently annihilated three great clans and caused a huge commotion, yet he had escaped unscathed. This ability was simply too powerful, just like a god. Don't spread this news carelessly. It's all nonsense. Suddenly, the old man walked out, glanced at everyone, and shouted angrily, "Whoever dares to say a word outside will be punished according to the family law." Everyone was silent. They didn't dare to say a word, nor did they dare to ask questions. Some people still didn't understand, But some smart people had already realized that this was done by Jiang Tian. However, it was too ruthless. If word got out, it wouldn't be good for the Jiang family or Jiang Tian. 3 days later, a piece of shocking news swept through the entire Jinling like a hurricane. Jiang Zhixing was transferred to a state-owned investment group in Su Province as the chairman of the board. For a time, public opinion was in an uproar. It could be said that the officials had put in a lot of effort to promote Jiang Zhixing. They bypassed the strict promotion period in the officialdom and directly let him break through the encirclement of state-owned enterprises. The provincial investment group was a department-level unit. Generally speaking, after 3 years of service in the provincial investment group, one could become a deputy provincial cadre. Everyone understood that this war had been decided by the officials. House Jiang had won completely and beautifully. Everyone had a premonition that a radiant and powerful family was slowly rising in Jinling. Master Kang's name spread throughout Jinling, shocking everyone. When Jiang Tian appeared at Banana Club that night, Mu Yunqing, Meng Yao, and Tang Bao all looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Some time ago, when the 3 great clans joined forces to attack the Jiang family, everyone thought that the Jiang family was finished. However, they didn't expect House Jiang to turn the tables and win completely and beautifully. The 3 noble houses were finished, and Yawang Group's market value had increased to hundreds of billions, becoming the #1 Chinese medicine company in Huaxia. House Jiang controlled 51% of the company's shares, which had reached a huge amount of assets of 50 billion. House Jiang was now at the peak of its power. In terms of assets, they were definitely in the top 3. Jiang Tian, on the other hand, had become the crown prince of House Jiang once again. Meng Yao and Mu Yunqing were so regretful that their intestines turned green. If they were given another chance to choose, they definitely wouldn't pass up on Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian, how did you do it? Meng Yao asked softly as she walked up, her face full of flattery. It was close to autumn, and Meng Yao was wearing black silk pants that ended at her ankles. Her white striped shirt was tucked into her pants, accentuating her slender waist and long legs. Between her pants and her white pointy heels, a patch of snowy skin could be seen. It was breathtakingly beautiful. It had been a while since they last met, and her wavy hair and makeup made her look even more mature. She had the charm of an urban workplace beauty. Master Jiang, Yawang's been so amazing lately. You have to take care of our business in the future. Tang Bao mustered up her courage and walked up, hugging Jiang Tian's arm and acting cute. Her smooth black hair fell over her shoulders, and she looked pure and innocent. Her skin was as soft as a porcelain doll's, but her figure was exceptionally hot. Even the V-neck couldn't cover her full breasts. Her body was also giving off a seductive fragrance, and her voice was like a lover's whisper. It was extremely seductive. It could be said that anyone who saw this pair of beautiful sisters wouldn't be able to resist. They'd have to throw away their armor and surrender. On the side, Mu Yunqing's eyes were red. These 2 girls were too straightforward and shameless, directly sticking to him like this. Unfortunately, she wasn't ruthless enough. She'd let them get to him first. What's with the jokes? I'm not worried about my position in Yawang Holdings. What can I take care of you guys? Jiang Tian said indifferently as he pulled his arm back. In other people's eyes, this kind of big-breasted, brainless rich young miss was a heavenly beauty, a peerless stunner. They were afraid of falling in their hands and melting in their mouths. However, in Jiang Tian's eyes, they were nothing more than ordinary women. He didn't care about them at all, and they weren't worth mentioning. Bro, don't go. Seeing that Jiang Tian was about to leave, Tang Bao pulled him with her soft hand and whispered in his ear. Jiang Tian bro, do you want to play with us? How about getting back together with Meng Yao sis? Buy 1 get 1 free. Bao, what are you talking about? Meng Yao's face was slightly red, and her crystal-clear eyes were shy and timid. It made her look even more beautiful as she stomped her foot. She stomped her foot, and her full chest shook a few times. Dazzling white waves rippled out, and the young masters around them were stunned. She and Tang Bao were childhood friends and best friends. They were very close, and they'd sworn to never separate. She'd even promised to marry the same man in the future. But that was just a joke from childhood. How could she say it out loud? It was just that she also had some improper thoughts about Jiang Tian right now. Although Jiang Tian was already married, so what if she was his second wife? Shouldn't such an outstanding man have multiple wives? This was someone who'd subdued Su Ruoqing and crushed Nie Mingyuan. With her looks, she should be able to make Jiang Tian like her, right? She should have the qualifications to be a mistress, right? So dirty. Go away. Jiang Tian raised his arm lightly and threw Tang Bao to the ground. She was so wrong that she almost cried. Jiang Tian was annoyed. He wanted to maintain his gentlemanly demeanor, but these two women were too annoying. Everyone was dumbfounded. Jiang Tian's standards were too high. Even these sisters weren't worthy of his attention? Jiang Tian avoided them like they were snakes and scorpions. He went upstairs and saw Su Ruoqing walking towards him. He immediately scolded her. What the hell is this? A high-class clubhouse? Even a bunch of wild chickens can come in. Mr. Jiang, please calm down. Su Ruoqing was silent from his scolding. She shrunk her head and bowed repeatedly in apology. Don't let me see them. Jiang Tian raised his hand and strode into a tea house. Meng Yao and Tang Bao looked at Su Ruoqing with a pitiful expression. Sister Ruoqing, we were just joking with Jiang Tian. We didn't want to provoke him. Get out. Su Ruoqing heard a manager's report and knew what was going on. She was so angry that she trembled all over. She pointed at the door and shouted. Jiang Tian was a dragon among men. What kind of person was the #1 grandmaster on the god ranking? I'm the queen of Jinling's underground world, and even I can only be his servant. You bunch of brats want to climb into Master Kang's bed? Wishful thinking. Who gave you the confidence? Sister Ruoqing, don't be angry. Tang Bao didn't realize the severity of the situation and wanted to act coquettishly. Slap. Su Ruoqing slapped her and shouted angrily. Get out. Didn't you hear me? Tang Bao's mouth was bleeding from the slap. She stood there, dumbfounded. She didn't know if she should cry or not. Throw the two of them out. Su Ruoqing shouted. From now on, their names will be removed from Banana Clubhouse. They're not allowed to enter. If you dare to offend Master Kong again, I'll kill you. Meng Yao and Tang Bao were like withered leaves in the cold wind under Su Ruoqing's might. They trembled, their faces pale. No, Sister Ruoqing, Jiang Tian, please give us another chance. Amidst the two women's pleas and struggles, several bodyguards stepped forward and raised their hands and feet to throw the two of them out. At the side, Yi Ziwei sipped her tea and snorted coldly. She said in disdain, what a snob. You disrespected Jiang Tian time and time again. Isn't it too late to try to curry favor with him now? To Jiang Tian, the two women's approach and fawning were insignificant matters. Jiang Tian came to Banana Clubhouse to invite people from the Lingnan spell world to discuss the hidden Dragon Mountain formation. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.